entire stream. Yeah, so what happened is it didn't automatically go live. So we've been streaming on Twitch, but we haven't been streaming on YouTube at all.
Oh,
Wow. Okay, why isn't that automatically starting? It should just automatically have started. That is really weird. Enable auto starters turned on, enable auto whatever. I don't know why, but it's making me manually start the stream. So apologies to everyone on YouTube. Look, we'll do it again. Woo. G'day, what are the Inforunners? Again, if you're on Twitch. First time if you're on YouTube. For some reason, I clicked the start button and decided not to start. So there you go. There's your start over. We were talking about just to catch the YouTube people up. I feel really bad. We were talking about the choir basically, and why is it not working? So apologies on YouTube. I've just realized it seems like we're 15 minutes late, but we've been going for about 10 minutes. It didn't auto start on YouTube. I don't know why. It just didn't. Even though it's set to auto start, it didn't. I had to manually start it, so I don't know what's causing that issue.
We were just talking about how similar the Guardian and Guardian QI are, and why it doesn't quite make sense, and how $10 difference it's about $10 worth of difference in the game as well. But it also kind of begs the question of why did they actually create a variant rather than just having one and then allowing you to swap out things. Yeah.
So as you can see in the background, as I was flicking between the Guardian and the Choir there, there's only two stats down the right-hand side that change. It literally goes from 210 to 213 SCM, or at the top end that becomes 1,100 and 1,125. Negligible difference. So you're giving up 25 MS at the absolute top end to carry a quantum dampener. And at the bottom, the missiles do change, but they're still both size 4 hardpoints. So again, who cares? You can change them back. It's just... I just don't understand why this exists as in the non-choir variant.
The only thing that I brought up, just so YouTube can hear it too, the only thing I brought up is that it may be that in the future, engineering might have something to do with that difference. But that's the only thing that I can even remotely think of why they would be two different variants.
Yeah, I'm just, and then I kind of went through and was talking about, so again, we're catching you YouTube guys up on the last 10 minutes of conversation. As you can kind of see here, there's essentially like 6 hard points, 4 for the missiles and 2 for the guns. And I was like, well, what if you swapped that round and had 4 size 4s instead of 2 size 5s and less missiles? Like, I just think it needs more of a differential, and there just isn't. And I even talked to people at CIG and they didn't even realize themselves that they were so similar. So they've obviously been working their butts off and not even had a chance to look at it. So I don't know. As you said, I hope maybe there's a change, but it's very hard to change things after they've been sold because people get antsy. But yeah, I think you almost have rocks in your head not to get the Quai for $10. But that's just me. Yeah. So I think we'll kind of leave it there. But yeah, we'll probably do a buyer's guide on this towards the end of the weekend. But yeah, once I have a chance to talk to some of the other boys. So yeah. Anything else you want to add there? I will have to put the bot up though too, when I always forget to do that. So we can get your questions coming in. As always, stream ends when questions end. So get your questions in. And why did that not work? Yeah, that worked. Right, cool. I'll just do a quick test. Make sure it's working. And we're up and running. Excellent. Right. So yeah, anything you want to add about that, or should we move on to 4.0?
I mean, if you want to talk about it, we could talk about the like the validity of it. But I don't know if you want to save that for the buyer's guide. But I liked it from when I flew it. I flew it for all of about 15 minutes, and I like the way it flew and everything like that. It seems like they're going the maneuverability route for it. So I thought they would go the defense route, but they went the maneuverability route.
So I'll start the obvious negative. It's a fighter, don't buy it. Right? It's too expensive for what it is. You can get other ships, like when you're talking like you can get a Carrack for what is it, $70 more. Not a Carrack, sorry, a Caterpillar. Or you can get other combat vessels like the Redeemer, the Paladin. You just get so much more ship for so little extra money, right? That said, as long distance fighters go, because this is a long distance fighter, so the only really fair comparison to it is the Vanguard series. It is better than the Vanguard, in my opinion. It's got 2 size 5s, where the Vanguard strength really comes from its redundancy and that 1 size 5. This has 2, and it's obviously more maneuverable. Why is it long range? Because it's got living quarters and a bed, much like the Vanguard. So this is a soloistic Vanguard. It's smaller. As you said, it's more maneuverable. It's got more guns. What the Vanguard has is that ability to rotate the pod through and be more dynamic for each mission, right? So that's that's what you're getting in the Vanguard. With this, you're getting a more combat tailored combat ship. Yep.
I agree with you. I think it depends on which Vanguard we're talking about, though, because the Vanguard Harbinger, I think, has a few points that kind of put them more on even ground together. But when you're talking about the Warden and the other variants, then absolutely. And I also had a weird thing about the. Go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, it really comes down to the variant. But at the end of the day, if you've got one variant and you've got to switch to the other, you've also got to go back. So that's also a drawback, a blessing and a curse.
Right.
Plus, you've got to earn it. There's a whole bunch of other real little intricacies there. But generalistically, modular ship will be never good as just the original, because it's putting a module in, and the modules are make other it's only got 3 torpedoes in an entire module of that size, right? If that thing had double the torpedoes, it'd be a different story. But 3 torpedoes for an entire module in the middle of the room is not enough, right? So that's the other point. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So you got to make compensations. Yeah.
I also wonder about the Zeus MR, because the Zeus MR, obviously not being a heavy fighter, but I also think that seems like it's a little bit more tailored to the idea, because it has a bigger interior. You can fit more people on it. It has
let's not look at even any of that, and just look at the price.
Yeah,
it's $190. You add 10 to 20%, so at worst it's going to go up by $40. That's still cheaper than this.
Yeah.
And as you said, add all that other stuff you added in, 3 people, the cargo, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, it's smaller. It can do. There are perks to it, but again, you are overpaying for fighters, and this is why we always say don't buy fighters. But that water is now getting so muddied that we just can't say don't buy things under $250 anymore, because it doesn't work that way. You know, you can get an Ares at $250, and you can get a MSR at $260. You see my point?
Also, one thing I don't think a lot of people are gonna notice off the bat is how close this thing lands to the ground. The feet only come off like 1 foot off the ground, so if there's a rock in the way, you're done. You're just not going to be able to land this thing. So it really is like a space superiority fighter. Like, this thing is supposed to take off from somebody's hangar, go fight, and then come back. It's really not your do everything ship.
Yep,
like something like the MR would be.
It's not designed for rough terrain, or at least not yet. Maybe down the line they'll add stuff like that. It is 100% speaking to people that love TIE fighters, though. Like, it is in my impressions, the first thing I said, if they don't make a grey skin for this, I will be really surprised. And literally then I go pull out the Quai and it's got a grey skin on it. I was like, oh, well, there we go. So yeah, it was just really, really obvious.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's a shame. There's a guy, Tyler, in chat saying he just purchased and he tried to log in the game, but he can't get in. I'm sorry to hear that, man. There is a whole list of things you can do to get into the game. If you still can't get in after the stream is finished, reach out to me and I'll go through them with you. But I'm sure someone here in stream will help you. If not, just reach out to me via Discord. Once the stream is over, I'll be finished in about 2.5 hours, right? And I'll go through it with you. Because the number one thing is the shader folder at the moment. Most people still can't find that in the temporary files. Right. I think we should move on to 4.0, unless you've got anything else to add.
No, we can move on.
Okay. I went to the wrong place. Go back to that one. Also got the letter of the chairman to go through. I forgot about that one. We'll have to go through that. Actually, we can probably do the letter of the chairman first. It's pretty simple if you want to break it down.
Yep.
Game not
I read
best.
through it.
Yeah, game not best quality. We want to make it better quality now. We're working on it more, so we're going to prioritize its stability over experimental assets. That's kind of how I took it. But we're still going to have builds open to experiment. So essentially what I heard was Evicardi going to be Evicardi, but live builds more stable. That's kind of what I basically heard, unless you heard different.
Yeah, it was essentially saying, like, we're going to separate this feature creep that everybody says that we're doing from the actual development of stabilizing the game and making it a better, more playable game. And I think a lot of the community's been asking for that. So I was happy to hear that that hasn't fallen on deaf ears, really.
So yeah. Yeah, I like the letters from the chairman. I think Chris, I'd always like to hear more from Chris, not less. So I don't know if that's going to be a thing going forward more. It's obviously not, because like we really only hear from him once or twice a year now when it comes to these letters from the chairman. When's the last time you saw him in video besides a CitizenCon?
Yeah.
Put it this way, I've seen him more in person this year than I have in video. So we'll just leave it at that. You know, right? That says a lot because I'm coming from the other side of the planet. So yeah, that's a bit weird for me to say, but it's true. So yeah, this year has been a very long road, and I think anyone that's been here for more than 2 years would say that server meshing has been a lot more complicated than we, like the original plan was, this is going to be 12 months, and it's been multiple years at this point. But now we've got that first version of static server meshing in. You could already see the benefits. It's generally running smoother across the board. Parts of the servers can go down, not the whole thing. And once that actually starts becoming dynamic and using the actual content, what do you call them? The object containers, the smoothness can only improve in my book. My biggest concern is, how they keep trying to run 50 people on one server and it runs like shit. I hope you can get it down to the point where it's got like 20 people running on one server, so it just runs really, really well. But again, that costs some money. So I don't know whether it's either going to be about how well it runs or the money. And I got a feeling, as always, it's always money that talks. So I'd rather everyone have this awesome gameplay experience and a subscription than we don't have a subscription and we all just ride off the coattails of ships being sold. I don't know. Are you for a better experience, or are you for a cheaper game?
Absolutely better experience. I think the Star Citizen has already proven that people are willing to pay, an arm and a leg for this game.
Yeah.
Just as long as the experience matches what they believe they're paying for. And if that's what the focus is, if the only reason you are paying a subscription is so that we can maintain these massive servers that we have to keep so that you can play the game better, I think that's what speaks to why people would like to subscribe or something like that. I do think they need to give better gifts for those subscriptions. I know that's not why people subscribe. I know a lot of people subscribe just to support the game, but I do think they could easily fix that issue as well while they're doing that. But yeah, I'm way more for the playability of the game than the cheaper, game. There's cheaper games that people can play. Like Starfield's $60, $20 for a DLC. You can go play Starfield. If like there's Elite Dangerous. There's so many games where you can go, and if you're looking for a cheaper experience, you can go and find that. I don't think MMOs generally aren't the cheap experience you go for unless it starts off as free to play and doesn't have micro transactions, which is extremely rare. So generally, if you're getting into an MMO, you already are knowing that there's either going to be microtransactions or there's going to be a subscription fee.
Well, I think that's the other thing is, like, a lot of these more modern games, they really rely on a smaller group of people that have really deep pockets. And the only other thing I hate about that is, like, when you look at free-to-play games, right? Because they're not really free. That's a right. You're relying on people that have a lot of money or mental health issues to pay for everything. And the other thing that comes from that is the people that get in for free, they don't care. They've got no responsibility. There's no gatekeeping. So basically, they just walk in, they can kick and destroy everything in the room, and then walk out and not give a shit. Or you can kick them out, and they just make a new account the next day and walk in the same door. So when there's a slightly higher bar of entry, in my opinion, like obviously you're always going to have to buy the game, but you got to imagine over time that that's going to drop in price and it will get closer and closer to free to play. I do not want a free to play game because every free to play game I've ever seen is just so, I don't want to use the word toxic, but that is what it is. I don't know where else to put it. Like I just don't play free to play games anymore because of that. And I know there's a lot of people that like them, and it seems to be the favored model of a lot of developers. But I think it makes the community around your game not healthy. And you go back and look at a lot of the free to play games that came out this year versus other games that are really good, and they just had a $40, $60 price tag. I'll take the $40, $60 price tag every day of the week. I think cheaters is another one. So Shen happens on Twitch just said cheaters galore. That's another one. There's no punishment. And how do you punish someone like that? They just make another email and they make another account and they're in. Like
Exactly.
And
I think free to play games were always meant to be aimed at a different category of people, like a different category of players. Like free to play games, I think were supposed to be for like, people who just want to log in, have an hour of fun and log out, not the people who want to build and create this like Second Life experience, or people who want to, play for 7 hours at a time. It's for I just want to play games with my friends really quick and then log out. And maybe I buy a skin or two for my favorite colors or whatever. And I think that's what that crowd was for. It was for the less dedicated crowd.
Yeah.
And I think it ballooned into once CEOs started to figure out, oh wait, there's microtransactions, and that's a way of tricking people into paying more than the $20 subscription. And that's when they were like, well, let's shift this over to what MMOs are. And I think that's kind of what ruined it. MMOs were always, I think, supposed to be a separate thing, because if you go back and look at like earlier free-to-play games, they didn't have they had some of those issues, but they didn't have the same issues because I think they were more marketed towards.
So it goes deeper than that though, because all right, so let's say you've got this whale person, and I'm not even going to pick a game. I'm just going to say it's a free-to-play game, right? And let's say that this guy spent, say, $5,000 over 5 years, right? That's pretty reasonable considering most subscriptions and stuff like that, right? So he spent that, and then this person just comes in, and they've decided their game is not the game. Their game is to aggravate and annoy the shit out of someone. And so they basically say all these hateful things to that person that has spent all this money, and that person snaps and says something back that they will later regret, and both accounts get banned. You see the problem there? So you're essentially holding the person that has walked in the door to exactly the same standard as the person that has been a loyal and dedicated fan, but this person that created the account within 30 days gets exactly the same punishment as someone that's been there for longer. And that's what I don't agree with. Now, I'm not saying this person here did the right thing, but you can't basically go, we're going to ban you, because banning him is it's 5,000 times harsher because he spent $5,000 than this guy that spent none. And that's the problem, I think, with free-to-play games. You cannot hold 100%. People to the same standard, because clearly I can just go make another free account tomorrow and I don't care, and I'll burn the house down every day because that's my game. Where the other person, they're doing the right thing, they've been there for time. So I don't ever like, if you punish them and said you're banned for 6 months, that I can get away with. But I don't think, and there's also a law here in Australia, and it's been really difficult to fight. If you buy something, you cannot be banned from it, right? And what happened was, and the game I'm going to pick on that started it was League of Legends, right? They were banning Australians en masse because we use the C word a lot, right? And so basically they started to do different court actions here, but what they did was they realized that in Australia, the cheapest filing you can file is $500. You have to pay $500 before any legal action would get taken, right? And what they were doing was making the people pay $500, and then they'd instantly give them what they want. But they wouldn't give them what they want if they didn't file the $500.
Yep.
And so it was pissing people off like crazy. Like, you are making me pay $500 to get back like a $5,000 account. And all I'm asking is, you can ban me for 3 years. That's totally fine. Just give me my stuff back to me eventually. And now, slowly but surely, they've brought it down, and you're now banned for like 3 or 4 years. I know people that were banned for 10 years before they got their account back.
As someone who's worked in the legal field, I can assure you that that is absolutely a tactic that is used.
Yeah. But again, I don't think people that, now I'm not saying if I spend $1 that I should be treated like put into he's in a paid tier so he gets preferential treatment. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the punishment needs to fit the crime, and it is clearly if this person's made a count within a small amount of time, I don't want to, 3 months, 6 months, a month, a day, whatever, and that you can clearly see that they went in and you looked and you can see the chat, but they don't have the time to do that, right? And that's half the problem. You've got 10 people taking care of 10 million. It's just not possible. Right. So it all becomes automated and they all get lost in the system. And the people that lose are unfortunately your biggest backers, so to speak.
And I think you're speaking to why these two things need to be different. Yeah. Kind of like what I was saying earlier, where the free-to-play was always meant to be for the short-term games. Like for Fortnite, for instance, you get on, you earn whatever your stuff is, you're last person, you get number 1, and then you're off, right? And you can play another game, but it's always short term. There's no you can collect skins and you can collect the little weapons and stuff like that. But I think that's what it's more meant for. It's meant for the short term games where if somebody tries to ruin you, they can't really pull it off. All they can do is make you lose a round. Whereas like these long term MMOs, where it's like you're building a legacy, you're building history, you're affecting the game. I don't think free-to-play was ever meant for that type of game because of exactly what you're saying, where people can just go in and create havoc. And also speaking to that point of, the banning people, it's always better for it to be a ramp-up process. But like you said, if it's automated, you don't get that ramp-up process. But because then you could look at somebody who's had, 50 of these issues, right? And there's also things you can do to force people to invest, right? Like, okay, if you're gonna, it can be a free-to-play account, but you have to send us a copy of, a bill or something. You have to verify your identity, things like that, to where it's like you can't just create another account and not be banned for it. So yeah, there's a way they can take care of it.
Hey Grim, good to see you. I reckon what the answer is not a full-on subscription, so not like $15 a month or something, maybe $5 a month, and the cosmetic transactions, because they're not giving that up after what they've seen for that. So you're going to be able to have any color that you want, but like patterns and decals is what you pay for. So somewhere between the two. So you've got microtransactions and a very cheap subscription, because just a cheap subscription alone will make people behave.
Agreed.
And if you give them a small little thing, like at the moment, I think the subscriptions are $10 a month. I think they're too expensive for what that is, considering World of Warcraft is 15 or is it 20 now? Is it 15 or 20? Someone will tell me in chat, because I know it's gone up. But here in Australia, it was like 15 from the outset. So I think it's up to like 20, 25 now here. So it's slowly creeping up to the price of like an indie game per month, which is not cheap. So yeah.
Yeah, and I hope they realize that if keeping it cheap is also a numbers game too, right? Like if you can add a little bit to it, maybe you make it $12.24 or something like that. But if you start to get up to like $20 for the lower tier and $40 for the higher tier, people literally just won't be able to afford it and they won't play. So it's better to have more cheap subscriptions than it is to have less.
You've also got tax on top of that too in a lot of places, so tax goes up as well. So Australia, it goes up by 10%. Guys, I'm looking at the questions. There's 3 questions. We the reason we talk a lot at the start is to get some questions in. There's next to no questions, so we'll do these 3 and we'll just call it a day, I think. So if you want a question,
you got Billionaire Ninjas on here. Ask all the questions.
We've done it before.
Like, why is your hair like that?
We've done it before, man. We just end early. So I've given them, this is like the 3rd time I've called for questions. So if you've got any questions, chuck them in. 4.0 stuff. I am hearing there are people having problems getting into 4.0. That's really disappointing. One of the questions does talk about that, but we'll go over that in a minute. So yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, we could just talk about 4.0 though.
All right, let's do that. Let's go have a look at 4.0. I'll flick it over. Here we go. This one. Girl bossing yet again. I I've actually been going back and looking at a lot of the advertising and stuff, and it is very female predominant. I think I might even do an episode on it.
You know what's interesting? I remember we talked a little bit about this at CitizenCon. I think I figured it out, right? So I know a lot of the viewers don't know this, but I have a business degree, and like part of that you have to like kind of study the marketing aspect. They don't really have to market this game to men as far as like the visuals, right? Like I don't know a whole lot of people who are like, I'm gonna play Star Citizen because I saw that part of the commercial, or I saw that particular visual. But there are, I think, at least in certain strategy for marketing, the aesthetic of the game itself tends to speak more to bringing in the gender that's less likely to play the game. And I would bet money that the numbers on Star Citizen are way more men play it and way less women play it. So I think that's what they're playing into. But I also think they're doing it partially to their detriment because they're doing it too much. It's oversaturation.
Look, I'm going to put it to you this way. I want you to go ask your wife this for me. Dear wife, would you like to look at this woman here or me with my shirt off? And see what she says. You dumbass. They like to look at the men and we like to look at the women. That's kind of how it works, bro. I'm sorry to bring biology into this, but that's how it works.
Well, yes, I agree, but it's also like an aesthetic thing. Like you can do both, right? But
they have found scientifically everyone likes to look at attractive people, no matter whether they're men or women. Women like to look at attractive women. Men like to look at attractive women. Men don't mind looking at attractive men because they can compare themselves as much as women like to look at attractive men. Scientifically, that is the correct way to go. So if that's what you're trying to get at, yes, I'm just having to go at you before, but.
No. I just think their marketing is shifting towards. It seems to me like the explosions, blowing stuff up, action part of it is geared towards the men, and then the like everything that's aesthetic is geared towards women. And that's what I've been seeing, like going back and trying to like look through it and actually analyze it.
Well, whoever's making their posters or art stuff at the moment it's clear on their Star Wars era, because this is like the second or third. Like this is like the second or third one that's been like that. You know, it's very Star Wars-esque. Even the one that they had earlier on in the year for the Pulse, that had a similar poster as well that was very Star Wars-y.
It's a smart idea. You want to invoke all of the favorite sci-fi.
Well, it makes sense with the Guardian being sold too, doesn't it? So.
Yep.
All right. What have you really had a chance to do in Pyro or 4.0, whatever you want to call it?
I didn't really do much because I kind of avoided it. I was waiting for it to go live, actually. So my first time getting into it was actually last night, and I only spent like an hour playing it, and that was really just to check out the QI. So I haven't done my first jump. I haven't done any of that stuff yet. I've been waiting. So yeah,
I think that's the epitome of what I'm talking about. Look, $250 for that, or $250 for that. They're the same. They're the same price. It's like that meme. They're the same picture. Why the hell would you want to? What?
Well,
Corsair's perfect for Pyro.
I think you and I understand that, but there are so many people I talk to every day that are obsessed with playing this game solo. And I think that CIG knows that, and they're just like, we know that even though the Corsair is the better value, there's somebody that's going to want to play this game by themselves, regardless of whether there's a better ship to do it with.
That's the other thing they know, though, as well, is people buy ships on how they look. Because that's all you've got right now. Like, they can't sit down and break the analytics and do all the specs and shit like we do. But again, that's why people watch people like us, so they can see that. That's why they watch Starjump and anyone else that will talk about the ships, because they're breaking them down and giving them, even just getting someone else's opinion. People, do you know, there was a statistic on when you purchase something, you are more likely to watch videos about that after you buy it.
Yeah,
this is most normal.
I'm guilty of that.
I'm the other way around. I watch it beforehand and then I don't really watch it because I research to find it.
Well, I do both. I like to watch
Rein-
before and make sure I'm making the right purchase, and then like watch after to see if somebody's had issues with it.
Reinforce.
Or, yeah.
But they're reinforcing their purchasing decisions, right? So if I come out and say ship X is crap, they get really annoyed. Hey, I brought one of those. That's crap. They never say they brought it, but you can tell they brought it, right? When they get that mad, you can tell.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting about that? It doesn't make sense because in this particular game, if you buy it and somebody says it's crap and then you actually believe them, you can just melt it.
Yeah.
So like to me, it doesn't make sense how angry people get, because I do ship reviews on my channel and people get really intense about like me giving a ship a lower score, and I'm like, you do know at the end of every video I say, if you like it, go buy it. It's not my money, it's your money. And I say that in every video, and yet somebody is still like,
yeah. I think the only caveat you really would kind of want to add to that is what you would kind of lose, but you still gain it back in credit, is you'd then have to buy another LTI token to upgrade again. But other than and any upgrades that you had, you may lose those as well. But generalistically, you shouldn't melt. You should just upgrade it up to something above. But at some point, there's diminishing returns there. I get all that as well.
Right.
But again, there are ways to safeguard yourself. Even with the Guardian here, I was saying to people, if you're not sure between the Guardian and the Guardian Choir, because I'm just like, there's got to be some catch here that I can't see. And I've spent, it's not quite 24 hours, but in 6 hours it will be 24 hours. But just can't see any reason not to get the Quai. But if you're worried, get the Guardian and then essentially get a $10 upgrade and switch it later, But as far as I'm concerned, if I was buying, I'd go the Quai. But and it probably is better than the Vanguard in my book now. But generalistic, it's a fighter. You've got Corsairs, you've got MSRs, you've got Connies, you've got Raelians, you've got Starfarers. That's another one. The Starfarer Max at Warbond. Holy shit! That's like 10 of those to one of these size-wise?
The Starlancer?
Yeah, Starlancer Max. Like, how is that a thing? Wow.
Yeah. It's interesting because like the more I talk to people about their willingness to play this game solo, I think there are people who are willing to go to great lengths to be able to play solo without other people. And even though I know that and they know that CIG is pushing it more towards multi-crew gameplay, they're still like, no, there's still a chance for us solo players, and they will buy more expensive ships just to fill that void.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Lemming's just saying in Twitch chat, yep, no one yells at me for calling the C2 utter crap. Dude, I was calling the C2 utter crap from the get-go. And I'm repeating myself because Lemming knows what I'm about to say. The argument with Sear and Paul, for an hour and a half, they tried to convince me that ship was tier 1, like top tier, S tier, when we did the buyer's guide. Well, not the buyer's guide, but the tier list that year. And I just stood my ground and said, no. I said, only one ship's got to come out and it does vehicles, and this thing drops straight off. Liberator dropped, boom, 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 boom. Like, now we're at the point where it doesn't even matter. The 600i is going to have one. Like, it just... And it's got no tractor beams, blah, blah, blah. So it's really a ground-to-ground transporter, or a ground, will station to ground or whatever.
It's interesting because...
Yeah.
When the C2 first came out, I think the gameplay was so heavily centered on cargo that everybody was just like, this is the best thing ever, because the gameplay was so centered on cargo. As we move further away from cargo, and as we get better cargo ships, more unique cargo ships, as we get better looking cargo ships, etc., that's why people can like easily start to pull away from it later. But in the early days, people were much more...
It's a little bit more than that, though, because you've also got the other features that they've told you about that are coming, but people can only see the now. They've got like these blinders on, because not everyone can sit down like you and I did and our grid and go through everything, right? And so, like, we knew tractor beams were coming. We knew that they were going to be a thing. Oh, this doesn't have tractor beams, so that means it's a atmosphere-to-atmosphere transporter. It's not really meant to transfer things in space. Now, you can have a tractor beam, and you can obviously put things into it, but it's obviously a massive boon to, say, have something like, I don't know, a Spirit that just has one on the back of it. Like, there's little things like that. And don't underestimate that, like, just having one on the back of a ship, that's going to be a huge boon down the line. More than people realize, especially in space, because then you don't have to get out. See, if I have to get out with my tractor beam and load it in, is that not a risk? doesn't it take more time for me to get back into the ship? Where if I'm pulling something with a tractor beam and people just turn up, I just flick the switch, boom, boom, and I'm gone.
And I have yet to actually use an ATLS in space to add cargo onto a ship. So I wonder
you can't use
how
it in space.
valid that is.
It just floats.
It does. Yeah. Okay.
You can't do it. You can't control it. It's got no thrusters, no nothing. You have to kind of sit in it. You have to sit in. Say you're in a Hercules. You have to sit in the Hercules and bring things to you.
So it's interesting because when I did my Freelancer Max review, there was a lot of people saying that, oh, tractor beam doesn't matter, tractor beam doesn't matter, and now I'm like, I think I had more of a point because I kept saying part of the reason I ranked it a little lower is because it didn't have a tractor beam, and that just didn't seem to make sense to me. But
there's the other one, the ironclad.
Oh yeah, the ironclad.
Even the default ironclad with a tractor beam, you could essentially pick up a tank and put it into the vehicle if you wanted to, right? But also you got the assault variant, but the assault doesn't have the tractor beams. I think the ironclad is where it's gonna be out, not the assault. We'll have to wait. Starter Up Grim says Guardian is cool, but Mirai just doesn't appeal to me. Subjective design thing. That's exactly right. There's I always come back to things. Space Tomato said one day when we were doing an episode, and he said there's got to be things in this game that you hate for everyone to like it, and that's just it. Yep. So we've found that Grim likes Drake, but he doesn't like Mirai. He's a Miraiist. No. But no, like I don't mind. I don't mind Mirai, to be honest with you. I think it's interesting how they took the curves of Mirai and then kind of added very triangular wings to it, and that's kind of what I think that's kind of interesting. It's a very juxtaposition. So yeah, it's
interesting because I'm kind of the opposite. I love Drake as a manufacturer, but I don't like their ships. And it's such a weird thing. Because I think I like the more pristine and clean look to things. But at the same time, I have an Ironclad, I have a Kraken. So it's like, and I have the Ironclad Assault too. So,
Variety's the spice of life. I think you're a little bit like me. You like a bit of everything. I like it. Like one of the things I like, a positive thing about Drake I liked in 4.0 is the HUDs are nicer. Now I know that sounds really weird, even though they're simpler and they're very cubic and like 1980s retro, they were easier to read. I found on some of the others, I'd looking around all the screen trying to find the stuff, but I always knew where they were on the Drake because they were always just around the MFDs. So it was just easier.
And I think that's something in the hat in the cap of Drake is that it's about simplicity. That's kind of the idea. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. All right, so we've probably got a few more questions now, not that many more. So we went from about 3 to about 15. So we'll take one of these real quick. Actually, I just realized, is there anything we want to go back over on 4.0, or is that pretty much you good?
We didn't really talk about it a whole lot.
No, that's what I'm saying. We kind of went off on a tangent and yeah.
Well, yeah, we could switch to questions and just come back when we're waiting for questions.
Yeah, we can come back to it. All right. So first question is Socially Confused says, what is your opinion of CEIG running 2 live branches? I think that's to appeal to people that thought it wasn't ready. They've admitted it wasn't ready. So yeah, that's only a good thing. You can have your cake and you can eat it too.
Yeah, I was surprised that this was the first time they actually did it. There's plenty of opportunities they could have done this before, especially like with the 318 launch and things like that. So I definitely think that was the right move. And yeah, if people are like 4.0 is not stable enough, go ahead, play the other one. But the fact that they're not wiping, that makes me want to play 4.0 regardless of the bugs, because I like, now I know I get to keep my stuff for maybe a year or two. So rather than 2 or 3 months. So yeah, I think for me, that was the perfect move for them to do. Yeah. And 4.0 has been stable. I only played it for an hour, but it seemed like it was stable to me.
Yep. Radium PX says Space Tomato and some of his org mates had a server error during a jump to Pyro. Seems as if their accounts are broken in 4.0 now. Even going to Arena Commander in 3.24 doesn't help them their 4.0 account. Oof. Yeah, okay. Well, I don't mean to say this in a mean way, but it's good that it happened to someone that's more high profile, because hopefully it'll get fixed sooner. And if it's happening to him, I'm sure it's happened to other people. And again, that's probably why there are two streams. So what do they call them? Two versions of the game at the moment because there's some things that are not ready. They acknowledge that. But yeah, it does.
Yeah,
suck
there's a. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's why they have that laundry list of bug fixes in the patch notes. There is a ton of things in there that they admit are just not working. So yeah,
I guarantee you there'll be people at CIG that give up going home to holidays, or they don't have anyone to go home to, and they just go to work and work on this through the holidays. Because I've heard those stories for years at this point. So yeah, I guarantee you there'll be people looking at it all through the holidays. And then I
actually thought it was going to come out on Wednesday because of that. I thought it was going to come out on Wednesday so that they could have time to do like at least one patch before everybody headed out for the holidays. But
yeah,
they did Thursday.
It almost always inevitably comes out. Well, that's kind of what Friday is. It gives them one day to kind of fix it before they go away. But yeah, they really work up until the deadline. It's happened a lot. I think the earliest we ever saw it was on the 18th. It's the earliest I've ever seen. But it's usually around this date, which is the 21st, and then that gives them a day or two. But I guarantee you there'll be people in the office today doing stuff. So yeah. Is anyone at CIG watching his service? So yeah, Radium has another questions. No, wait, they tried character repair to see if it helps. Oh, let's hope it does. So Socially Confused says, are questions from YouTube working? Yes, they are working. I'm reading them. Radium TV says, where's Algrid? He went mad and I shot him. No, he's doing family stuff. It's all good. Did you see the updated Explorer pack on the store? I think they will actually be updating some of them again. All right, let's go have a look, because generally they make them worse. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think they know what we want, and so they somehow make. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Like, I'm just gonna stop pretending I understand how they think, because I don't. I just don't understand why they do what they do. I tried to get a meeting with them just to talk, and the reply I got was, we cannot reply with your request at this time. So all I don't want to do an interview or anything. I just want to sit down and talk to them, like what I did with John Crew and Algrid and I and Ben.
I think they need to do an ISC at this point, at least, just to like say, well, this is part of how we make our decisions on how much things cost.
I think they'd be a bit scared that their faces would be on camera and that they'd be marked for murder. Or something of that
well,
nature.
they could do it, you know. They could do it, you know, how like people in witness protection do it, where they change their voices and they're
and they could like be really funny about it and do the silhouettes from Half-Life. You know how they had the heavy and the scout and all that. That ghost scares me, and have the voice changer and stuff. But yeah, that's really fun.
That would be cool.
Right, new packs. Explorer, Ultimate Explorer pack. Is that no?
Is that it?
Which one are you talking about for context? Who was that? So there is an Explorer and Mega pack. I don't remember that one. But
that's from 2950, so it's got to be that Ultimate Explorer pack.
The normal Explorer pack is gone though. There used to be one for about $600, and look, there's nothing between 85 and. So Monster Avery.
No, I have that one.
Hang on.
That one's old.
Monster Avery, if you can just let us know in chat which one you're talking about, man. Specifically. Right, so you've got this one, do you? Or
yeah, I have that one. That was from 2020.
That's the There's like 5 ones in there that I'd want to upgrade though, so that kind of gets shittier. You go to this one. This was the original. It's just, oh no, this is the one where they added the 400i. Yeah, so that kills it for me. Yeah, honestly, the only ship in that I'd want is the Carrack. There was one just called the Explorers pack, and that one originally started at like $500, and it crept up and up over years as the value of the ships came out. But that was the very, very first. That's also why they use the name Ultimate Explorers and Mega Explorers, because the Explorer pack is known as a very good one. These ones with the extra words, no. 1K1 is new. Yeah, I'm sure it is, but it's still garbage. Like again, like I look at that, and the only ship that I'd actually want from that I think that is good value is the Carrack. Everything else is just like the LTI tokens. And again,
Yeah.
this is why you don't buy packs. Now you can love the 400i. So let's say you like the 400i and you're a bit weird like that. That's fine. There's still 4 ships there that are not worth buying. So they just become, you're bundling everything into a pack that costs $1,150 that locks you in and you can't melt things if things don't go your way. Not worth it. And again, if you look at the discount across the entire board as well, you'll find that it's usually under 20%. You can get better value with upgrades.
I think this is for the person. So I've kind of shifted my theory on packs to be like, these are for the people who don't want to play the CCU game.
Yeah,
these are for the people who don't want to go through the effort.
1 second.
Or yeah.
1 second. Lemming, yes, I was personally attacking you. Lemming is a weirdo because he likes the 400i. Yeah, that's it. All right, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that because I've talked to people when I did my CCU guides and stuff, and they've been like, "Look, I just don't have the patience for this. I'll just buy the pack and save my $15 or $20 or whatever." And I also think, again, I still think they can do better with packs. I still think the discounts need to be more and a lot of other things. But I also think some of these packs are for people who already have most of these ships. I could see somebody having the Carrack Expedition and they already have the Carrack and the C8X, and then they have a Terrapin, they have a 400i, and then the only 2 ships they don't have out of this are the RN and the X1 Force, and essentially they trade all that other stuff in and get this pack because they already have that stuff. That's what I think as far as the smaller packs, but some of the bigger packs that doesn't really apply.
I'd have to go back and look at it again, but from what I remember, it was one of these 2 were the only ones that I could actually get behind. And I think, yeah, it's that one. I think it's that one. Yes, it's that one. So this is the only pack. This is the company pack, right?
Okay.
And it's the only one that I can really get behind because guess look, big ship, big ship, big ship, big ship. It's 5 big ships, right? And they're all very good ships. And guess what? If there's one in there that, let's say, for example, you don't like the Starfarer, you can upgrade that into something else. You don't like the Genesis, you can upgrade that into something. Any one of those ships that you don't like, there's room to upgrade it into one other thing. But being 5 big ships, generalistically, you would look at that and go, as long as you like 3 of them, you could quite happily change 2 of them. And again, you go back to the one that we just looked at before, which I was saying, what was it, this one here? Look how many more LTI tokens are in there.
Yep.
Right? And that's that one. I'm trying to, well, I want the cheaper one. Where is it? This one. All right, so this is the same thing. But again, you look at that, there's only 2 ships in there. Maybe the 400i and maybe the Carrack. That's still the same number of LTI tokens that is in this ship, this one over here, but you are far more likely to like those ships and want to keep one of them. That is my point. There are actually ships in there that you want. When they come along and they give you a pack like this, or like this, and it's got all these little things in it that you don't want, that is annoying. Why the hell would I want it? No, I'm not saying, I don't want to pick on a particular list, but I'm picking on its price, right? So look at the 315p. Why the hell would I want a 315p when I have a Carrack? I could literally get that thing within 1 mission in-game. Why would I want to pay real world money for that and essentially burn the money when I could put the money towards something else?
So this is also something that bundles are a way of people removing stock of something. Like generally, like if I want to sell like this crappy game, you know, that nobody plays, and I might give you a discount on another game that's super popular and then bundle them together, put them on the same disc or something, so I could say I move more copies of that game for the investors or whatever. But when it comes to this, it doesn't really make sense because it's all digital. So like, I don't get why you're trying to move ships. Like, it matters that people get those ships when it's not a physical product. You don't have to tell your investor that you sold so much of it.
They're kind of valued higher than what they're worth too, because you can get them in game for, you know, and there are other ways to get them cheaper. The other thing I want to point out is, like, I don't really ever really kind of talk about this at length to break it down. So let's break it down slightly. Say we always talk about the earn down economy, right? So let's look at, say, I think of one that's got a series of ships on it. Let's say all the mining ships are out, right? And we always would normally say get an Orion and earn an Arastra, use the Arastra to earn a Mole, blah, blah, blah. But if you don't want to go into those bigger ships, like you've just gone, I am never going to play with more than myself and John, or say I'm even solo, right? You could literally go, what is the biggest solo ship I can get? So can I comfortably do a spirit? Then get a spirit and earn down to the smaller starter ships, right? This earn down economy thing works on every step of the chain, right? The only place it doesn't work from is the very bottom, right? So if you know you're never going to go all the way up to the top and go to the javelins and the krakens and all that, you can just bring that down and just keep bringing it down to the level that you're happy at, and that's where you buy in at, right? But again, you only need one ship at the level that you're at, and you essentially can go to everything below that exception. Obviously, that narrows the more you come down, right? But the point still stands. It's an earn down economy. There's just many steps to the ladder. So, like, one of our advice, most of the people that make it us are veterans, and we've all spent way too much money. So if you spend over $1,000 and they're all on little fighters, why the hell would you do that when you could amalgamate them all together and have $1,000 ship? That's kind of essentially where it all comes from, right? But you can't give generalized advice completely across the board all the time, especially when there's all these nuances, right? So we have to simplify it down to a thing that makes sense. But if you try to tailor it towards yourself, just look at that top ship that you're happy to get and honestly ask yourself a question. Do I want ships above this? Then maybe I need to consider about consolidating to move up. But if you are happy where you're at and you're like, I'm never going to go above a Zeus, I'm not interested in a Raelian, I'm not interested in a Corsair or whatever, or you go, oh, well, maybe I could use a Corsair with one other friend or two other friends, then you need to break this down for yourself. And that's why I'm trying to do it, is break it down to the level that you're at and go for the highest point that you're happy with. I hope that makes sense. I feel like I'm rambling. Am I rambling? I'm rambling.
No, that makes sense. People purchasing things is such a complicated topic, right? Because people purchase things for so many different reasons, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to this game, I think some people purchase for looks, some people purchase for solo gameplay, some people purchase for multi-crew, some people purchase because of value. And I think we try to save people money, right? Like we try to say, look, like you really can save your money and get this more expensive ship by consolidating everything. And then there's people that just rail against it because they're like, value isn't the only thing that matters. And I think that's the thing. We never say that value is the only thing that matters. We just say like this is the thing that a lot of people don't consider the most is value. A lot of people get the ship because of the looks, or they get the ship because of the current meta. And we're like, well, if you focus on the value is constant. Value is always going to be there, right? Whereas if you're basing it on looks, well, that's completely personal, and we can't even talk about that anyway because beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But if we're talking about something that we can actually measure and we can say, this is actually, you get more for this ship, you get more with this ship, you get more if you purchase this ship than you do with this other ship for your dollar, that's something we can measure. That's something we can look at the numbers. And again, the meta is going to change, but like the prices of the ships, I think that's where you really can be consistent as far as giving advice. Whereas you can't tell people, well, this ship looks better, so buy that one.
Just for the new person in chat that's complaining about me cutting Billionaire off or whatever, this is not us grandstanding. This is a discussion. This is a back and forth, and there's also a bit of lag. So you'll notice that he's actually cut me off and I've cut him off, and that's totally fine because that's what happens in a discussion. It is not him or me being on soapbox going 7 years ago. It is not a speech. It is literally a discussion. So if you don't like how it works here, I apologize. And I'm sorry that this is not for you, but that is how we do things here. It is a discussion. It is an exchange of minds and thought. And that is why I like it. That's the way I like it. And I don't... I actively want to go on other shows because I like the discussion. I like the backwards and forwards, and I find that it knocks things out. Go ahead, Billy.
And there's respectfully cutting somebody off, allowing space for other people to talk, and then there's disrespectfully cutting somebody off, like, no, shut up, I'm gonna say this. So it's like there's a difference.
That's for after the show.
So I get it. I get that people like to see the cordial nature. But just know I'm not offended. So if I'm not offended, don't worry about it.
Yeah. So yeah, it does take new people a little time to kind of get what it is here. And then we've seen comments in the past where someone goes, I used to hate the way Execute and Algorithms cut each other off and blah, blah, but then I realized it was a discussion. And that's what it is. It's an exchange of ideas and thoughts. And you'll often see sometimes like Arga will be talking or someone will be talking and I'll go, because it literally rattles something in my head and makes something cool come out, and that's it's gone every which way with every Inforunner that you've probably ever seen come on the show at this point, and we found it's just the best way. It makes you think and exchanges, and yeah, get some really cool stuff. And yeah, sometimes some things do get lost, but that's also the nature of discussion as well. So strengths and weaknesses to everything, I guess. All right. Let's do another question. Man, I haven't been ticking these off. I'm going to lose where I'm up to. We're up to oddball. Hang on, I have to tick that one. You can see the questions here, by the way.
I can. They're just really tiny on my screen. If to make them bigger, I'd have to look away from the camera.
You put on glasses and squint?
I can get real close. Real close. In like this, you can see my nose hairs.
Yeah. That's all right. They just merge in with the beard. It's all one at this point. Nice. All right. Oddball 198 says, now that CIG has figured out jump points and server meshing, and seeing that Nix is pretty simple system, Nix at CitizenCon next year. Your thoughts, Billy?
I do think they could pull it off by next year. I do think we'll hear about it next year, but I don't know if it'll be available next year. I think they will definitely talk about progress made. I think they'll talk about the different types of gameplay available in Nix. I think it'll be heavily featured. But I honestly don't think New Planet is the route they're going as far as the primary thing they're going to talk about. I honestly think Death of a Spaceman is going to take a major place in the next CitizenCon. I think they're going to start trying to finalize that moving into 2025 or going towards CitizenCon.
Yeah. While I'd like to see next year, I also sit here with my developer hat on and think about other things as well. So, like, what do you get by adding an Exe system for CIG? You get more work. Is Planetary Tech fully finished and polished? What did you get by adding Nix? Well, you get these other tile sets that weren't available in Stanton. What ones are we missing? And by adding Nix, are we going to get those? And I can think of lava planets. You don't get those from Nix. The only one I saw that had a lava planet, believe it or not, was in Terra. Right? So I look at it from that point of view. Is it helping CIG or holding them back? Because then they've got to juggle 3 plates instead of 2, type of analogy. So I think while it's this, it does look like it's done. Look at it with your developer hat on and go, is this helping CIG or hindering them? And I'm not sure there. So I think we'd learn as they tell us, wouldn't they, in ISCs and stuff? Like, we'd see it kind of coming.
Absolutely, and I think if the letter is to be believed, I think they're focusing more on polishing the gameplay that exists and focusing on bringing the gameplay that connects everything more into the game, rather than like we're just going to add a new thing to the game. I think they want all these things to connect. And the more these things connect, the better they have to put more work into this thing, right? Like somebody asked me the other day about how exploration and salvage are going to be connected, and I'm like, well, once exploration forms itself and you can actually start selling this data and stuff, well, then that means data running is going to start forming, and then when data running starts forming, then now you're getting salvage missions without even interacting with the game. You're getting them from other players.
Even before just the proper being able to scan and find it locally.
Exactly.
And then if you've got a Terrapin and a Terrapin go further, it can find it before you can.
So that's what I'm thinking. I think CIG is moving more towards how do we make all this stuff work together rather than just like, here's a new planet, here's a new...
That's kind of what he said in this too, isn't it? That's the takeaway from this. Like, it's... Yeah. I think a lot of us want more gameplay, to be honest. But I think that's the other thing I read out of this is that they're going for people that like the stability and the people that want new features, and it's going to be a bit more... If you want the experimental, you're going to need to get into Eva Cardi and the PTO and stuff like that. But if you want more stable life and normal... When I say normal, I'm not talking about watching this stream. I'm talking about all the people that were influxing now that 4.0 has gone live. Those people that you only see when a big patch turns up, right? And, people that we'll see in, let's say, January, because January is a dead month for content, right? The people that are there in July and January, those 2 dead months, They're the hardcore people. They're the people that are going to stay the whole time because they love this game and all that type of thing. The people that turn up in the popular months, like CitizenCon, IAE, and Invictus, they're the more normal people. But yeah, anyway. Right, what's the next one? Wearing Pro says, is there any value in having a duplicate ship? I find myself with 2 cheap Polaris CCU chains, and I'm wondering if it would be beneficial for my org. What's that, Billing? Choo-choo.
I have 3 endeavors, so I think I can answer this question. Absolutely. What ship did they say they had?
Polaris.
Multiples?
He's got 2 cheap Polaris chains.
I think you could, you could probably put one of those towards something else if you wanted to. Like, you don't have to go all the way to the Polaris in that chain, but what would be your purpose of having 2 Polarises? Like, I know my purpose for having 3 endeavors is because I can outfit all of them. And now I have a master set. So now having a master set, I can put whatever I want on 2 of them, leave it. It's all covered by insurance. So then all I have to do is just, those can go out and do whatever I want, but they have 3 different purposes. I don't know if there's 3 different purposes for your Polaris. You might have one for cargo and then one that's more combat related. But then I'm struggling to find like a third reason, right? So maybe if you have 2, those are the only things I can really think of. Is maybe one is more centered on cargo and industrial stuff, and the other one is more focused on pure combat. So it depends on, you have to have a reason for your fleet.
So my answer to Wearing Pro would be really, what does your org need? Because that was what he said in the question. He said, is there any value in having duplicate ships? I find myself with 2 cheap chains, and I'm wondering if it will be beneficial to my org. Go talk to your org. They're the people that tell you that. I can't tell you that. You're asking me to read the mind of your org leaders. Are you thinking I'm some kind of magician alien sent from the future?
Look, I don't know what X is talking about, but I can read your mind. Yeah. And I can tell you that you don't need 2 Polarises.
But yeah, it just really comes down to, you go talk to your org. So there might be someone that wants to buy one off you, or maybe you guys can use 2. I honestly don't know. That's a question for your org, not for me. Do you want to? That's completely different, right? Yeah. I don't have any duplicate ships at all. The closest one, though, ironically, is the Endeavor. I do have a couple of CCUs that I've just sat on in case I do want them, because again, in the future, you could want like a medical one, you could want a science one. Like, there's so many modules there. It's the one ship that you could probably get away with. I think the only other one that I can think of like that would probably be the Caterpillar, to be honest with you.
I think all the modular ships make sense in that way, because then you could just put the module in it and leave it. But then I would ask you, if you're going to do that, why not just buy the dedicated ship for that role?
That's right.
And have those 2 different ships. So if you have a Polaris, you could easily stop that at a Liberator, and now you have something that's a little bit different. Or if you want something more combat oriented, you could stop at a Perseus.
I think he's still. Yeah, again, can you jump off to something else is the first thing I'd say, like Billion saying, or is it just one that takes you straight to the Polaris? But he did say CCU chains, so I've got to assume that that's the last stop. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you want a Perseus? Man, reach out, dude. I'll go through it with you. That is a fix my fleet question. 100% needs more detailed answer. But in the same time, if you can, go talk to your org. Give me that answer, and then I'll sit down with you and we'll have a chat. No worries, man. Reach out to me via Discord. Or go post it in the Fix My Fleet channel. Either or. Whatever you feel more comfortable doing. You don't want to talk to me because I'm a big scared alien sent from the future, apparently. Right. Shem Pastor says, what changes do you think CIG will make to the Choir after they realize it has few downsides compared to the base Guardian? Yeah, I don't think this is a downgrade situation. I think it is an upgrade the Guardian situation. And the only thing I think of is the hardpoint thing I suggested earlier, with give it like 4 size 4s or something like that. But then again, that does make it a lot like some of the other ships, like the Saber. So yeah, I don't know.
I think you could do a loadout swap too, but I think that's still just questions. You can do a loadout swap on anything. So I think the only real thing they can do is change a significant part of the ship, like, upgrade the power plants on the QI, or make it 1 size 2 rather than 2 size 1s, or maybe add another cooler or something like that. That's all I can think of.
Could we
or maybe a different type of rack.
Could we go crazy? And I know this is going to sound crazy, but I really have to sit down and think about this on a power scale. But would 6 size 4s be too powerful? Because you're losing the range of the size 5s. Think about that. But then you've got more power, so it becomes a more close range fighter. But then again, you still...
On a heavy fighter, I don't think that's too crazy.
But you also don't have the maneuverability. See, that's the other thing. The size 5s have range and not much maneuverability, so it's okay. Because you're essentially, you know what I mean? But then as soon as you lose the range, you've got to have the maneuver. So you'd have to make it more maneuverable. But then also you'd have no missiles. But 6 sides. Oh, I'd have to sit there and think about that for a hot minute. Because it is more powerful, but then if you lose a gun, oh, yeah. Is there going like pretty quickly? It'd be interesting though, like because we don't have a ship that has 6 guns of the same size, and especially of that size. Like that's essentially, well, actually, we do.
Well,
the Hurricane. No, that's 2 size 4s and 4 size 3s. My bad.
Well, think about what we got with the Corsair, right? So we got 4 size 5s and 2 size 4s, right? So if we can do 4 size 5s and 2 size 4s, I think we can do 6 size 4s. But again, now we're talking a 1-person ship versus a ship that's technically meant for 3 or 4 people.
Cosmic brings up a good point in chat too, but then people would complain because of the F8. It'd be more powerful than the F8. And he is right. It would be more powerful than the F8. And
but I think I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that in the way that you can adjust for that by balancing other things, right? If you get the 6 size 4s, then it needs to be slower than the F8 or less maneuverable than the F8 or slower in a faster line or slower in a straight line. Like you can adjust for that. Maybe it's not as tough as the F8 or things like that. I think you can adjust for it. However, I do think like you're gonna have people who already have the F8 who are going to be like, well, now my ship needs a buff too, regardless of how you balance it. So I do see where you're going there.
Yeah. It's not as easy as it sounds. It really isn't.
Yeah.
That said, though, another way I just thought of, but people are like, no, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I was going to say one's got the dampener. What if one had the snare? So you need both of them to pull off what the Mantis does. But yeah.
I'm actually upset that the Mantis is the only ship that has a snare, and they keep having these ships that have the opportunity to get a snare and they keep not doing it. So I'm like, what is it? Like, are they trying to say we want to force people to use the Mantis because we want to see how people use it in the Mantis before we start jumping to other ships? Because this would have been the perfect opportunity to put a snare. Right? Why not? It's a huge ship. It's $250, $260. Put a snare in there.
I honestly thought the Quai was going to give up the internals to have the snare. That's honestly what I thought it was going to be.
That would have made sense. But that would have been a big difference. Like, and then you give the other one the dampener.
Yeah, give up the bed and the living quarters. Still have all the modules and all that, but you essentially give up the bed and the living quarters for a snare. That would have, and then just make them exactly the same in every other way.
And I want to say something about this interior too. Like the QI's interior is like min-maxing at its finest. the small elevator leading into the rear, and then the suit locker just behind it with the 2 weapons lockers. Like what they've managed to fit into that thing is actually quite impressive. And it goes to show what they've learned from doing the Zeus, where they had to fit a bunch of stuff in together, and now they're like, okay, and we can do that with a smaller ship as well. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if other ships like that need slight reworks, like the Titan. And I think they said they're not going to do another full rework of the Constellation, but I could see them doing stuff like that to fit more things into ships like those.
So I'm just reading my insulting daily comment from Citizen John. It's fine. He's going for me because I'm playing with my cat. It's all right. Fine. At least mine loves me, unlike yours. Right. He doesn't have a cat, so that's why. Oddball198 says, now that I've COG could fit. No, we read that one already. Shit. What changes do you think COG will make to the court? No. Lambsmith. Do you think that we will see challenging skill-based profession gameplay now that they've added crafting to everything? Yeah, I think we're going to see that's why would that change? Crafting is independent from the individual gameplay. Wouldn't crafting itself be a gameplay on its own? Hence why there are crafting ships
crafting
like...
I think is gonna.
Go ahead.
I think crafting is gonna be its own mini gameplay. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think it only enhances it. Like the first version of crafting we ever heard about was essentially in the Endeavor and making the modifiers and the modules and upgrades and stuff like that. And I think that'll only expand. Do you think crafting is going to be as simple as just like you press a button and it's mass producing stuff? Bloody hell, I hope not. You know, I reckon they're going to come out at different levels, and you know, you get those games, and like you put all the things in, and like you can increase the chance that it's going to be a better item because I used flux as a blacksmith or whatever. You know what I mean? And if you put all 3 ingredients, it really increases the chance that you get a much better item. That's what I think we're going to see. So you've actually got to manually put in what you're going to put in and all that. And yeah, you could queue it up, but it's going to cost you a lot to make multiples. And do you want to leave that running not knowing what's coming out? See what I mean?
I liken it to what they said about refining, right? So somebody had asked, I think, when they were talking about refining pretty heavily, I think it was when the Expanse came out. And they said, how is refining going to work? Is it just going to be you insert stuff and then it pops out the other end? And they were like, no, there's going to be gameplay involved while things are cooking. And I think that's kind of going to be the same way with everything, with base building and everything.
They did
it's not
say,
just going to appear.
I just want to
you're going to have to put some work in.
I just want to add to that. They did say you could leave it to automate, but if you manually did the gameplay, it would be significantly quicker. I remember that part too. So you could still, you know how you got the refining right now at stations? You could leave it to do that, but if you manually do it, it picks up the speed. And of course, because of the speed, people are going to do it manually.
Yeah, especially if it's a significant time suck, right? Like if it's like, you know, an hour versus 10 minutes, I can see a lot of people being like, I'm not waiting an hour.
Have you ever played Satisfactory? So there's a certain thing...
I downloaded it. I haven't played it yet.
Yeah. So when you've got so many machines making so many things, even though they're making them slow as hell, because there's so many of them, it does speed it up. So you can almost see an automated approach to some things will work, but then other things where if you're doing a one-off, like if I'm just building a C1, I'm not going to do that. I'll do that manually because it'll be quicker and I'm more likely to get a better outcome. But if I'm just making a spring, then I'll make springs aplenty as fast as I can.
And it might be that the gameplay is in the way that you prep the things to go in. It may be that it's not during. It could be, well, if you set this setting to high and this setting to low and this setting to medium, it'll come out this way. But if you set them all to low, it'll come out a different way. And maybe that's where the gameplay is you have to know, based on what I'm putting into this machine, what settings do I need to get the most output and to get the best speed? And that's probably where the gameplay is, rather than like it's cooking and I have to stir it while it's cooking versus that type of thing.
Well, I think there's someone else in chat that's having trouble getting to 4.0. He's telling me that it's garbage. You want to elaborate on why it's garbage, Cryptic Soldier? Because just saying it's garbage is not critical feedback. Give me critical feedback. Why is it garbage? How do we fix it? What's wrong? I'm not just going to listen to "you're a dickhead" comment. I want to know why I'm a dickhead, type of thing, so I can fix it. If you just tell me I'm a dickhead, how do I fix myself from being a dickhead? Well, it's the same thing. You need to tell me what I'm doing wrong. In this case, what the game's doing wrong. New Explorer pack. You checked it out and speak to its feed value. We did. We already went through that one. Hudson Hawk. We're down to like 6 or 7 questions, guys. So if you want to get some more in, please feel free. This is a really true, what says Inforunners is that some cases wrong with the seed logic. You would not hear the question, should buy a huge star for a max or guardian for the same price. It is in this case, need to change something or give more to guardian and ships alike. I think it's just, the other thing is you got to look at combat ships specifically, are like they have their gameplay. So they're already increased in price. Where they always said ships will increase it. So like the Pioneer will come out and base building will be out. And so the Pioneer will go up in price, right? We've seen it with the Reclaimer. It's probably one of the few ships I haven't seen go up, even though a part of its gameplay came out. when proper salvaging comes out, because they've also said that's a placeholder, the price will go up. The Prospector went up, the Mole went up, the Arastra will already be up, as will the Orion. I think that's a part of it. So the combat ships have already kind of always had their basic gameplay. There's not a lot to them. So because that's already out, they're already at a premium. And we also learned during CitizenCon for the first time, military-based ships cannot be purchased, they must be crafted. So therefore, that also puts their price up a little bit, because you if you can just buy them, it's the only way you can buy them is to buy them with real cash. But that said, after a month or two, I think especially a lot of the fighters, there'll be so many people crafting them that the price will go down. The market will become flooded. Oh no, maybe I'm wrong. We'll have to wait and see. They are again having 90% NPCs. Oh, that's true. They could fluctuate the economy to keep them up. That's true. I have to think about that one. I don't know. What's your kind of thoughts on that question? Or do you want me to read it to you again?
Yeah, I didn't quite hear the question when you said it.
It's very broken up, and you can clearly tell it's not.
Well, what's the gist of it?
So he's essentially talking about the differences between, say, things like around bigger ships around the same price point as the Guardian, like, I was talking about the Corsair and the Starlancer and stuff like that. He's essentially suggesting that they need to add things to those combat ships to make them better value to validate their price point.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then in that case, I kind of agree with what you said. Like they've already said that the combat ships are going to be essentially difficult to come by, because you can't just go out and get them. You got to craft them. And I think in order to get those crafting things, there's probably going to be substantial gameplay and reputation, bars in between you and getting that crafting material, or either it's going to be the crafting material that's hard to get, or the actual blueprint that's going to be difficult to get. And so if I think when it comes to combat ships, the value of its ability to do combat is really based on what you're going to use it for. Are you going to use it for its dedicated purpose, or are you going to try to find some secondary purpose for it? Are you using it in a fleet? Because if for instance, if I just have a hammerhead, to me that's not a very useful ship. But if I have a hammerhead and a Perseus and a Polaris, now I'm like, okay, my hammerhead is extremely useful in that category, because my hammerhead's going to handle these fighters much better than the Perseus and the Polaris. So it really, like, the value of the ship in that space, I think, is really what you have to think about. Like, how are you using it? Because that does dictate the value to you. But on the same note, as far as the fighters, there's the whole thing of don't buy fighters, and now I think you're getting into like Inforunners have always said.
You've got to weigh it up, right? And I kind of weigh things through, and I always don't like. I was worried there. I'm like, oh, have they actually given us a reason to buy fighters all this time? But once me and Arrogant sat down and analyzed it, it's like it slightly increases them, but again, once enough people have those patterns, there'll be people selling them regularly anyway. It's just instead of the bank selling them, so to speak, the players are going to be selling them. So what's the difference to the purchaser? None. It's still available. It's just that for the first little part at the start, military ships aren't going to be readily available. But once everyone gets all the patterns, what are the orgs going to do? The big orgs going to do? Geez, I have no money, and I have these rare patterns, but I can't give them to my enemies. No,
so
they're going to sell them, because the NPCs will probably sell them anyway. They'll make up NPCs that earn that pattern and sell them if there's not enough demand. That's just how it'll work.
Right. And I can speak as a person who has bought fighters, and I still have limited them to the ones that I specifically like, right? So the Razor EX I bought because that's one of my favorite ships in the entire game, right? Yeah. So I was always gonna purchase that, and it just so happens that it's $150, so it's not, a $700 ship that happens to be one of my favorite ships. And then the F7A was more of this is going to be rare, so I'm just gonna earn this because I think it's going to be rare in the future thing. And then I don't own any other fighters except for the ones I've gotten for concierge, like the F8C. So, like, you have to make those distinctions for you. Like, why are you buying that ship? Because I could, just as easy as I could justify my Razor EX, I could just as easily say I can upgrade that to something later and just be happy with buying the Razor EX in game. So I have an exit strategy, basically.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I've bought fighters. That's how I know not to buy fighters. So it's just that simple. Like it's
Yeah.
Again, I showed you before a Guardian at $250, a Corsair at $250. Technically, they both do combat. One holds 4 people, one holds 1. One's got a lot more flexibility than the other. Yes, it could be argued that the Guardian is a lot better at the combat part, though. But yeah, I just can't justify them at their price. They are very overballooned for what they are. And yeah, the points are made up, and they just don't matter. I don't understand how there's even an argument. It's very simple logic. But, hey, you do you buy what you want. We're never telling you what to buy. We're only ever advising. Yeah, something we always say too. Buy what you want. Don't let us tell you what to do. We're only trying to help. Right. Next question. Where are we up to? I was sending a message. So, yep. Billionaire has spoken. So this is from Radium TX. Billionaire has spoken about his billionaire ship package on his channel. What would that be in an execute pack? I think for me it probably would be a lot of industrial ships. Money makers, money earners. I think we did do a kind of pack thing a while back.
Yeah.
In an episode. I'm trying to remember which one it was, and mine was the cheapest, ironically.
Yeah, that was, I think, the first episode that I actually was on Inforunners. I think that's what we talked about.
Yeah, I was earlier this year, wasn't it? I don't even remember the name of the episode, but I just remember building packs. Yeah, and we looked at them and went through them all. Yeah, but one of the episodes, if someone finds it, let me know and I'll link it or talk about it. But yeah, I just remember. I've got something in my goddamn eye.
I know. I learned a lot from that episode. Because I think when I was thinking of packs originally, I was like, I'm gonna give you every single ship in that you would possibly ever need to do like this thing. Like, I'm gonna give you everything for salvaging. I'm gonna give you everything for patrolling or whatever. And I quickly realized, like, you don't have to give people everything. You just have to give them enough to be dangerous or enough to earn the rest or enough to like. And I think that's kind of where I would go with packs now, thinking about like what I would put into a pack.
And that's kind of how CIG do it. They give you what they think you will need. So like a mining complete pack or whatever. And I think it's more like when me and Algrid look at it is like, let's look at the value, because you could have realistically, you could have a pack that's a really good value, but you don't want it. But because it's such good value, you buy it and turn them into other things and keep one or two of them. Right. So for us, it's always been about value, because what is the generalistic thing that all of us can understand, and it's value, right? If I put out just mining ships, that's not going to appeal to everyone out there. But if it's got value, I will buy it.
Yeah, like one of the things that bothers me about packs they have, like the Dominus pack, it's 6,400, and I'm like, okay, I would have bought this pack if it had an Idris M instead of an Idris P. And that's what I feel like they're missing, is like they don't understand that you either have to make it include something rare, that I'm buying it to get this rare thing, or you have to make the value so inviting that I want to buy it just to save the money. And I feel like that's part of what they're missing.
I do find a lot of those manufacturer packs really strange, because I can't think of anyone that would say, I love every X manufacturer of ship. Because like no matter which manufacturer you pick, they have flaws in their lineup, or they have, if you bought Aegis as an example, you might not like the Reclaimer and the Vulcan because they're civilian-based ships. They're not militaristic. But by the same token, you could buy Anvil, and they're all military and nothing. Well, again, same thing with the Liberator. You might be pissed off with the Liberator. You get my point, though, right? I don't think you could buy a single manufacturer and be happy. And I know people that have gone out and brought those packs, ironically, like you said, to get things like the Idris M, and then they're left with like 30 versions of the Avenger and all these other small ships. And that's the other thing. Like, you don't want those. Like maybe one Avenger, but I don't want every Avenger or every Vanguard. Again, you want that's the appeal of the Vanguard. Give me one Vanguard and I'll just swap the pot around. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just,
And like
yeah.
I've come close to buying the Praetorian pack. I just reached that level where I'm like, okay, if I melt everything, I can get the Praetorian pack. And the only thing that I want to get it for, well, there's two things: the LTI 890 jump and
Yep.
the Idris M.
Yep.
Because I've always said if I'm going to get an Idris, that's the only Idris that I would want.
Yep.
And so it's so interesting to me that
you do know you can essentially, like, if you kind of look at what they've done with the Idris and the Kraken, they've essentially released upgraded paths to those ships. Because you essentially buy a Kraken, you'll then go in the game and you'll rep grind and eventually be able to earn all the stuff to turn it into a privateer. And I wouldn't be surprised down the line if we don't see another version in the Kraken, kind of like what we saw the Idris. We now have the P, so you start with the P, you grind up and rep grind to the K, then you grind and upgrade to the M. You want that upgrade path so you've got progression to do with your ship. And not only are you doing that just for you, you're doing that as an org. So think of that as org progression. It is really important. We're not just giving you a reason to use this ship. We're giving you a reason to upgrade to another one of it. We can't really essentially upgrade you to a Bengal because your org's not big enough. You see what I mean? So, like, how do you give them progression? The only way you can do that is upgrades. So once you've done all the components and the turrets and the guns and all that, see where I'm going, right? Like, they need those for those bigger ships because they've got to have the drive and motivation to push the org forward, to want those ships to be better. But anyway, coming back to what I was saying, though, that I don't understand why they can't have value and what you want. And it's little things like when they take the Aegis pack and put all the Vanguards in it. That's not value. That's just fluff and filling it out for no reason. So you, like, again, if me and Algrid made an Aegis pack, we would go through, we'd almost make two Aegis pack. We'd have the Aegis military pack and then probably like a more Aegis utility pack, right? And we'd go through and trim the fat. We wouldn't have multiple Vanguards, but we might go, well, here's the Harbinger. It's got extra armor. It's way more military inclined. By the way, we're going to include the other pods. There's a value. There's a unique ability. And it's like you were saying, giving that value. Now, yes, the M is a good value, but also you could go, we're going to give you the K. Or something like that. You don't have to go all the way to the top because you do want some progression, right? The other thing is, do you have other ships in the lineup? We're getting into ancient territory. So I'm getting into privateer. Yeah. Like, do you want a privateer when you have abandoned benchmarks? Things like that. You get my point, right? They need to trim the fat on some of these packs. They think they're giving you good value, but it's not good value if you've got multiple duplicates of things you're never going to use. Do I need every Aurora in the game with the RSI pack? No. No, I do not. I need one Aurora and that'll be enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, right. We're down to 6 questions. So Socially Confused says, is this the plan for there to be a solar flare in Pyro? It was a great feature. I think they'll bring it back eventually. I think from the tech preview last year, it really didn't do a lot. It just disabled your ship and turned off the shields. I think they wanted to have more impact. And I think they'll probably have to give you some time to hide. I don't know how that's going to go. Like, I think it will actually kill you if you're outside eventually. Like, it'll make you that sick that if you don't get to medical, you'll die. But how long you'll have to get to that is another thing. And like, if it damages your ship, well, you tell me, 10 minutes? Would you need 10 minutes warning to get to safety if you're in a ship?
I think it was when it was on, the person's health went down like 10% or 15% because they were outside.
Yeah.
So like the health went, it just like was a automatic drop of your health. But I do think like maybe there's suits you could wear that obviously reduce the amount of damage you get and give you.
Yep.
And it might be like, if you're just wearing a combat suit, you just take this health hit
but
and maybe it automatically downs you or something like that. Yeah.
But if I'm just out in an undersuit and walking around on a completely civilian planet, like essentially one step up from naked, does it give me a condition like it gives me radiation sickness or something like that I have to get medically treated? And because I'm in Pyro and they're used to that happening, the hospitals would have that on stock, but maybe it costs money or whatever. I'm just saying there has to be a punishment, a cause and effect, right?
Yeah.
And there just isn't the cause and effect there yet. So I think that was something that they put in, but they haven't found out what the effect is going to be there, and they just took it out because all the other shit they had to do, that was obviously, let's be honest, it's low priority. But I think eventually it'll come back in, unless you think different.
No, I think yeah, that's what it is. Like, I don't think anybody's like, I'm going pyro just for the solar flares. Like, so I think that they took it out as like, well, if we got to cut something, we're going to cut the stuff that is not essential to the gameplay.
I'm just seeing one of those. And I don't just say this to say derogatory, but those really loud Americans are the only ones that leave America. So I'm just picturing the loud American coming down to Australia, and they go out onto the beach and they look like a lobster because they've been sunburnt. I came to Pyro and he's just like all sunburnt, like being blasted in the face by radiation, and he's just like, he's drinking Foster's. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I don't take, because I know I'm not one of those Americans, I don't even take offense when people say stuff like that. Because I'm not one of those.
I shouldn't say the loud Americans, because let's be honest, there's loud people everywhere. But you get what I'm trying to say, though, right? It's that typical.
No, I get it.
I can do what I want, and just walks into Pyro and gets blasted with radiation. I think that'd be really funny. But there's a good skit commercial there for Pyro. You know, like the tourist ads they do. Come to Pyro, leave with a radiation tan. You know, like that.
I have no doubt that CIG is gonna be on. Like, that's going to be a thing where it's like, I think there's going to be a Terra versus Soul war, like, in the community. I think there's going to be, like, I think there's going to be so many of those things where it's like, rep your planet, you know, like, where's your home base at? Your home base is in Pyro, yours is in Stanton, you know, so rep your solar system, or, you know, I think there's going to be a lot of that.
No, I totally agree. And I already see it between Paul and Algrid when it comes to law fighting over silly shit like that. So I'm sure that'll spill out and other people no time to home flat. Right. I wish says question for the earn down, now that we won't be soloing big ships because NPCs won't be in for a long time. Is earn down still a good strat? Well, I always buy ships for myself. He's got more to his question, by the way. He says, because a cull PC crew will equal same as small ship, solid ship dollars. For me, I'm always planning to buy my ships for the release of the game, right? And you can also buy a ship like a solo, like, what's a simple example? A Vulture with an exit strategy or an upgrade path to a Reclaimer. Problem solved. Right, so that's how I would do it. If you want to play the now, but also have the later, have your exit strategy. But I don't buy my ships for now. I buy them for the release of the game.
Exactly, and I think that's where a lot of people make mistakes in their purchases. Is they're like, oh, well, I want to buy this ship to play the game now. Well, that's fine if you want to buy a ship to play the game now, but don't make that part of your fleet for what it can do now. Like, I have a Firebird right now. I have no need for a Firebird, but I also have a chain from that Firebird all the way up to my Ironclad Assault. And right now, I just don't like the loaner for the Ironclad Assault. So the more that I like those loaners and stuff, the more that I'll use that chain to get all the way up to my Ironclad Assault. But I like the Firebird right now because I can stealth up on people and shoot a bunch of missiles at them. But I'm not going to keep that. That's not part of my fleet. That's just something that I'm using right now. So if you're thinking about the fact that there's no NPCs, then you're only thinking about like pre 1.0, right? Or pre 1 point whatever, right? So if you are truly part of this earn down economy, then you got to think of that as in game, not what's currently going on in the current patch or the next patch.
Yeah, I do tend to agree with Lemming. Do not apply chains for loaners. Yeah, I agree with him on that one. Yeah, leave your chains as loose as you can for as long as you can. Yeah, because then you're missing out on potential savings. And that usually get enough. Well, look at the savings I got on my Polaris. You know, like that's like 2 or 3 other ships I've saved. So yeah, but yeah. Again, everyone do what you want to do, but advice is advice, so you take it or don't. What are we down to? We are down to Darren, who says we're down to the last 4 questions. So if you want to get a question in, we're up to time-wise. We're only just past halfway. I'm going to get some sleep this morning. This will be great. Darren says, does the revelation that in-game warranties will be rare modify the earn down strat? No, because warranties are tied to the insurance. So if anything, it's like, is LTI more important or less important? It's got nothing to do with the end down economy. If anything, it makes it stronger because the bigger the ship, the harder it is going to be to replace. So you want to have that LTI on it. I think the bigger a ship, the more valuable the LTI is on it, personally. Do you want an old, crusty rust bucket being returned to you, or do a brand new sparkling one? Especially when it costs the mega thousands of UEC that those big ones are going to cost.
I will say this, because they said that these things are going to be rare, these transferable warranties are going to be rare. They did say if you purchase a ship, whether it has LTI or not, you're never going to actually lose it.
Yep.
But because these transferable warranties are going to be rare, I start to ask people like, okay, are you going to use that transferable warranty on this tiny little, PTV? Or are you going to actually wait until you have a bigger ship and then apply it to something like your Odyssey or your, a Rastra or whatever? So like, even though that does change in game, and it did shift me a little bit. I bought some smaller ships that I normally wouldn't buy, but it was more so based on like favoritism rather than like some actual strategy for the game. So I think it shouldn't shift it much for anybody. It should still be, get the biggest ship, get the most value out of the biggest ships, and the bigger the ship, the more you can save on it because of CCU. So
to simplify, as I understand it from sitting in the crowd at CitizenCon, essentially a warranty is if you purchase a ship, whether no matter what LTI or what insurance it comes with, purchasing it means you'll always get the new one back. If you earn a ship in game, you'll get the equivalent replacement. So if you had a 6-month-old ship, you'd get a 6-month ship back. What it means is if you have 120 months insurance and that eventually runs out, you'll only need to keep paying the insurance, but you'll always get a new ship back. That's the difference between purchased and non-purchased, right? And then when it comes to LTI, you'll always you don't have to pay for the insurance because you'll always get that base variant back, but you'll still have other insurances to pay, like cargo. Did you change the weapons? Did you put a different module on it? Things like that. So if you change that, you're still going to have some form of insurance to pay. It's just essentially different levels that you're paying at, right? And going back to the original question, yeah, if anything, it's made LTI more important, not less important in my book. And I think wasn't even you that brought it up. You could actually justify LTI on vehicles now. Was it you that said that a couple of weeks back? Like when I was saying I can see the argument for that if you're regularly super destroying something and you want it back in pristine condition every time. Yeah, I can totally see that. Right? That was my only part about that. Yeah, like if you are a tank guy and that is your thing and you are blowing yourself up every day and you are doing all that combat stuff and that's just the thing that you want and you're paying that extreme insurance to die super frequently, absolutely I can get behind that, right? But I would, by the same token, I wouldn't say have every vehicle under the sun.
Exactly.
I would have the one that you really, really, really want. That is just built for you. Yeah.
It's got to be how much are you going to use this vehicle and how much does it actually cost? Because like I can justify that on something that's $50, right?
Can I tweak that? How much are you blowing this shit up? That is the real question.
Well, yeah. I mean, or how often you think you're going to leave it somewhere though.
Well,
it could be like,
how much are you using the insurance and the warranty on it?
Exactly.
That's the proper way to ask it. I just said it in layman's terms, right. Like how much are you blowing it up? But again, if you might not blow it up, but you might be wanting to replace it because it's just too much to repair or whatever, So
right.
But again, they're going to have ways of detecting that too. So
yeah, I think if you like, for instance, the one that's the hardest for me to justify is like a Nova tank, right? Because even though I'm going to blow it up a lot, it's still $120, right? So I'm not it's not cheap, right? But if it's something like, I don't know, like a X1 Force, I can kind of justify that because it's only $50 or something like that. And I know I'm going to literally only be using that to go into bunkers and get blown up. So it's a little harder to justify the higher the price is. But I do think there is an argument for that. I still would say lean away from that. And only buy the ones for sure you're gonna.
It's not that dissimilar for things we've said in the past, like where you get those ships that are rare outliers as well. So like one of the ones that we come up with is the Reliant Sen. It's the only small ship in the game right now that does science. The only other science ship in the entire game is the Endeavor. But eventually some medium ship will drop that does exploring, and we'll go get that instead of the Reliant. Bang, right? But again, the gameplay for science isn't in yet. So again, now knowing that they're essentially bringing ships in with their gameplay, once you hear them start talking about science gameplay, you can bet your bottom dollar there's a ship being planned in the background ready for it to go. You know, so we don't need to be surprised anymore. You know, they're talking about bounty hunting for 2 years, and there's the marquee mark. You know, you'll have hacking with the Legionnaire. You know, like it's all obvious now. And this is all backed up by things Ben and John told us as well. Like you can tell now when they're coming, right? Because they'll be talking about the gameplay. So if they start talking about salvage, you can bet your bottom dollar there's another salvage ship coming. Base building, blah blah blah. Like again, as you see it coming, you can bet that, you know, we've talked about for years, like another ship under the Reclaimer, another repair ship under the Crucible, things like that. You can bet they'll be coming as that gameplay comes online. So, yeah. Right, anything else you want to add to that one, or you want to move on?
Yeah, we can move on.
Should there be any difference between purchased ships and pledged ships in game? I think we kind of just went over that one. That is literally very similar to what we just went over. So it really is going to be the warranties and the wear and tear on the ship. Because if you, they'll come back worn, so to speak.
Yeah, and don't forget the credit. Don't forget the credit argument too, where if you have only in-game insurance with no warranty, you only get the credits back. You don't get the ship back. And then there's levels to the insurance as well, to where you get your decorations back and you get your weapons and interior stuff back. So
see, I almost starting to think the transferable warranties things is actually coming from a different place. I have actually thought about this for quite a while. So let's go into the future, you know, Doctor Who style, or however it goes, and you tumble down a tunnel, and we come out the other end, and we're in 2035 or whenever it is, right? And you and I have got our ships because we brought them all ahead of time because we're smart like that. And little Johnny comes along, or Johnny didn't exist, and he comes along and he wants to play the game, and he sees that they've released the new Nox TV remote, Argo TV remote ship, and it's got LTI on it. Now he doesn't actually like the Argo TV remote, but it's got LTI. But then he can take the LTI for that and transfer it to the ship that he actually likes, the Origin headphones. Yeah, the Origin headphones. and then that has LTI. I think that's where the transferable warranties are coming from. Sorry, it's random. It's really hard to figure what to pick up in my room, and that's not going to be disturbing or but whatever. But you get my point, right? I got to double check it for safety. But you get my point, right? I think that might be what the transferable warranties are for, not for us, so to speak, but for new people, so they can then get ships to come back with the pristineness of the ships, but also to encourage them to buy new ships, not just sit there and go, oh, well, I'm going to play the whole game for cheap as possible. Because they'll then at least buy one ship to make their favorite ship LTI.
Yeah. I think you can argue it's for us as well, but for the ships we refuse to buy. Right? Like, so sure. I won't have a G12. I won't have a 600i Touring. I won't have a base ironclad, but those are ships that I'm interested in. Like, I want those vehicles, I want those ships, but I'm not going to spend money on those. So like, but I at some point I do want those to have a warranty on them. So like,
well, think of the
benefits. Have a reason to, I have a reason to play the game just to get the warranty for those.
Me and you, we go out and we work for months and months and months. We get ourselves a Kraken or a Javelin or an Idris, whatever it is, one of those really big org ships, no warranty. And then we go buy a ship, we upgrade the warranty. You get where I'm going with this. Bang! Exactly. All of a sudden, we've consolidated and made it sweet. That's a huge motivation, and the cash alone that they will get from that. Yeah, I don't know. That's just where my brain goes. I think it is a bit of a cash incentive, but it also allows people to protect their favorite ships. Yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely.
No, let me know in the comments, and also let me know in chat what you guys think of that as well, because I think that's where it's going. It's my personal thought anyway. It's a motivation to purchase, so to speak. I have lost where I'm up to. Darren Jag Mason says, was the auspicious red paint that was available for the Sabre a few years ago during the Lunar New Year event only ever available during that one time a few years ago, or can I get it again? Oh, that is a hard question. But
the auspicious red paint?
Yeah, he's talking about the Chinese New Year one.
Yeah.
If it was ever available again, it would be on Chinese New Year. So you've just got to set your clock to Chinese New Year. Don't have long to wait now. What, 2-3 months?
Yeah.
And then
it should be end of January.
I'm pretty sure I've got one in buyback somewhere. Because I when skins come up for events, I buy them all. Oh, that reminds me, I've got to go buy all those skins for the damn Guardian. Usually buy 5 of the concierge ones and then just melt them into buyback and then buy them again. But I'm really credit poor at the moment. I need to go get some.
I've been doing the wrong thing and buying all the ship packs, and I'm like, I only buy them for ships that I actually own, or if I know I'm going to give it away. So like I've been buying the packs for the ships that I own, and then I've been buying like the single one-offs for giveaways.
How comfortably do you and the wife sleep on that pile of money every night? Like just that you can just buy packs.
I melt them into buyback.
Yeah, sure. Just anyway, right. Blam Smith says, oh, okay, he's telling someone how to ask a question. Dirty Guard Gnome says, afternoon X. It's technically morning, but afternoon where you are. Question, I have a chain to the Starfarer Gemini. It's a gem. See what he did there. Do you think we'll see gas harvesting without a Starfarer wearwork or a new ship pre or post 1.0? Yeah. Yes. So it'll... I don't know when it's going to come and be, but realistically, think about the size of that ship. Is it easier to work with a medium ship or to work with a large one? And if you look about what we've seen, is a lot of the professions have roughly come in on a small or a medium because it's easier to work with, right? Look at mining. Prospector, then Mole. Look at salvage, Vulcan, and then the Reclaimer was already awkwardly sitting there. You get where I'm going, right? So yeah, I think you're more likely to see something smaller come in first that works, but they'll probably give Starfarer exactly the same functionality and then change it later. Because if you go look at actual mining, right, let's take that as an example, right? Even if you left the other ships exactly where they are, so the Prospector and stuff like that, you've still got to look at the Orion. That thing's cracking big rocks, so its gameplay is completely different. We also know there's going to be underground mining still and underground gas collection off the geysers they talked about, but also drilling the holes to get to that stuff. So there's so much more gameplay to come, even if they never even touch what they've got there and expand that out, which they're not going to do. They're going to clearly expand it all out. So yeah, I don't know. Billing, what's your thoughts on that one?
I think now that I'm like watching them do this new thing where like they're really focusing on the quality of the ships. Like it's not just like, oh, let's get a ship out here that has the gameplay in it. They're like, let's actually make something here where people get inside this thing and they're like, oh, this thing is really incredible. I think we're gonna see more of the mid-tier ships that can define what the like the statement is for that entire brand. And then we'll see the higher ship and then the lower ship. Because I think they were starting with some of the lower ships because they were easier to build, but now that they got the better ship team and everything, I think we'll start seeing more of those mid-tier ships first with being able to do those types of jobs, and then they'll go up and down from there. But that mid-tier ship is going to set the brand design, and or say this is how Origin would do a medical ship, or this is how Argo would do salvage, etc.
Just really quickly to go back to Jag Mason's question about the auspicious red, Citizen Ninja checked it and he said that it's available every year. So all you have to do is wait to Chinese New Year, just to let you know, Jag. Right. Yeah, I tend to agree. It's going to be the medium, smalls, and up. And I think also now as ships are, let's say that ship line is really starting to mature, they are definitely putting a lot more. Especially if you look at the older ships. So let's look at the original Retaliator and the Starfarer. They didn't know what they were going to do. They don't have components. They've got so many things in those ships that need to be taken out. And then you go right to a ship like the Guardian that came out yesterday. Look at all the shit it's got in it. Components,
Yeah.
elevators, it's all tighter and more functional. They've learned as they've gone, right? And they're now applying what they've learned. Now, if only they could get some military advisors and we'd actually be onto a real winning thing here. But again, they could just bring in military advisors right near the end and change them all. But I think they're going to find that they need to do that sooner rather than later. Otherwise, they're going to be doing drastic reworks of every single ship. Yeah, Citizen Ninja, I do the same thing. It's bananas, man. It's just the way it works. He's just saying that he buys the Chinese New Year paints and melts them every year, and then he realizes he's got like 6 copies over, like, All right, next question. I Hudson Hawk says, should there be any difference between no, we already did that one. Cosmic Turtle says, does not applying chains risk breaking the chain if they change the price of one ship to the other? Well, you have them all built out. Even if you've got them filled with credits, you can fill them out with credits and just have the whole thing sitting there. And then when other CCUs come along and they sit in the gap, you melt off that credit CCU chain, rebuild the 2 sides either side of it, or it might even only be one side of it. But you can always have the whole thing sitting there complete, ready to assemble. There's nothing stopping you doing that.
I think they're talking about, like, so for instance, the Saber, like I had one where the Saber randomly went up in price by $5 and it broke one of my chains that I had. But
you can still
all you have to do is
they just they still go backwards.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so as long as
you can still melt it. And
so as long as you've got it complete, sitting together in individual links, it can't be broken. It can only be broken if you don't have them somehow, or have a CCU that attaches them. So if you are going, oh, they're $5 apart, but I don't want to spend $5 credit, and then it jumps and it stuffs you because you can't reconnect it, that's on you. You just, I try to have it all connected, and if you can't have it connected, then all you need then is the final one, and then build it at a later date, all the way up to where that ship is.
You're never stuck because you haven't applied them. If you apply them, that's when you're stuck. So
you've just lost a little bit of money. You lost
the
the saving of one CCU.
Yeah.
And that's on you for not having it. It's no real big deal, personally. I don't think I've had it to me, but I've applied CCUs that have gone backwards.
It's only happened to me once in 8 years. So
I've applied them because they go backwards and then they go forwards like heaps, and I save heaps more on the next one.
Yeah.
Because you got to think of it like, okay, so it's going forward 10, back 50, but then it goes forward 200. Like they literally can do that, so it just doesn't matter. It just means you've never really lost it. It's this perceived, it's a perception of loss, but it's not actually a loss. It didn't cost you anything. You haven't lost anything.
You can melt it for the same amount.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just it's crazy talk. Perception. Radium TX. You've asked a lot of questions today, man. Thank you. What games are you playing during the holidays if the SC servers aren't working well? I'll start with you, Billy. What have you been playing, or what are you intending to play?
Oh, I'm working my way through a backlog. I'm playing Blood and Wine, Witcher 3 Blood and Wine to finish that off. I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3, Red Dead Redemption 2. And then I just got a Steam Deck, so I'm going to be playing some like older games on that too. So like more so like games that are like low energy games, like games that don't require a lot of graphical prowess on those. So, but yeah, that's mostly those few that I mentioned.
Okay. So one that I would recommend, I'm just going to open this really quickly, is I finished this, I just devoured this game. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I'm a massive fan of Indiana Jones. I've got all the movies. I didn't really like the last two. Actually, I'm going to be honest, I haven't even seen Dial of Destiny because I just knew it was going to be a trash fire, a dumpster fire, whatever you want to call it. But this, and a lot of reviewers agree with this statement, it essentially goes the original trilogy, then this. Right? So it's that good. Like it is above the other movies. It is above every other game. The story is quite good. It's got none of the woke crap in it that a lot of the normal Lucasfilm stuff has got in it. It's just really good. Good game engine. Had a few little bugs, but they're working them out. I'll be honest that they are fixing a lot of them as they've done 2 updates already, and it's only been out since the 9th. So it's been out like 12 days and it's already had 2 updates. really good locations. Even game wise, you go to one of the places you go to is like almost like Vietnam. It's not Vietnam, but I'm using that as an example. And you go around in a boat, and it's just you're going from like little island to little island doing puzzles and stuff. And most people think because it's on a first person, I'm pretty sure it's on the Doom engine or something akin to that, that it's like a first person shooter, but it's not. If you've ever seen the indie movies, they're a lot more about detection and puzzle solving with some action, and it is evenly distributed between. And I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't say shooting is 5% of this game. It is, you can shoot if you want, but you can also melee and stealth. And it's usually more beneficial to melee and stealth than shoot, because when you shoot, you trigger like everyone in a really large area, where if you just knock the guy out and the guy over there hears you, you've only got 2 or 3 guys to deal with. So I found it not really a shooty game at all. And I was really happy with how it played, and I really liked the puzzles. And they don't handhold you. They don't go, this is exactly how to do it. But if you want to, you can, there's a camera in the game and you can take photos of the puzzle, and it will give you more and more clues over time to try and help you solve it. So you can, if you're really stuck, you can help it. But the creatures in it are good. The characters are good. The locations are really good. I was really, really happy with it. So that's my recommendation for a holiday game. Not the cheapest though, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like it's like 120 Australian dollars. One of the most expensive games on Steam right now.
Yeah,
you can tell I'm gushing
that.
You can tell I'm gushing.
I've only played like 20 minutes of it, but I thought that game was really good. It's on my list, but like I said, I have a long backlog.
Yeah.
I got a few other ones if people want to hear, like Frostpunk 2. I think is
Frostpunk 2 was up on the,
really good.
That was up here on special yesterday, I think, as well. It's on. Yep. There you go. Yeah, 20% off. Metaphor is meant to be really good. Oh man, I got to. What a travesty that didn't get Game of the Year. That is clearly Game of the Year. What does, no offense to Astrobot, but how does that push the gaming industry?
I have to disagree with you.
Hang on.
Okay, go ahead.
But how does Astrobot push the gaming landscape forward? It doesn't. It's just another Mario game, another platform.
I'll give you that.
So for me, the games that come out always push the tech. They always are pushing the entire industry forward. It does not do that. Wukong did that, but because of the way IGN attacked it, and IGN are like, again, you go look at the people that they took it off the Game Awards site. The people that are voting for this stuff, they had regular drama magazines voting for this stuff. There are only about 2 or 3 actual game people voting for it, and they changed all the voting, so it's only 10% people and 90% journalists. So it's just, yeah. Anyway, what are you going to say about Astrobot? What are you going to say?
No, I after playing both of those games, I did think Astrobot was more fun. But at the same time, I agree with you. You should give award game of the year to something that changes the industry. Like Baldur's Gate 3, 100% deserved that. It brought back like what was missing from gaming, and since then, the Baldur's Gate 3 folks have been saying, look, the reason you're failing is because you're doing these microtransactions, you're doing this and you're doing that. And so like, I think Astrobot was just so freaking fun though, that it just took everybody by storm.
I got a lot of...
I have not had that much fun playing a Sony game in a very long time.
I have a lot of Chinese friends where I live. Like I live in a very multicultural area, right? And they think a lot of the reasons, like the word from China or the word coming out from China, is that we just hate Chinese people. Like the whole reason this lost is because it's Chinese.
I could also see the political aspect of it, because especially I think the Game Awards were held in the US this time, right? So if Chinese game,
they're always held in the US. They're always held in LA.
So like if a Chinese game wins the Game Awards, then, but at the same time, if you look back to the Emmys, a Chinese based show won a lot of Emmys. So it's like,
well, it won the golden.
Is that just the game industry?
This one the golden. I think it's just the Game Awards, and I'm going to be honest. I'm liking the Game Awards less and less because they're trying to be like the Oscars. And guess what? I don't think we should make this like the Oscars. I don't think we should be bringing actors onto a Game Awards show. I think we should be putting the voice actors and other developers up there to talk about, not Hollywood types. But that's just me, right? And again, I think with the way that this all went down just shows me that it's a little bit rigged. You cannot tell me it's not rigged when the vote got moved from 50% people and 50% journalists to 90% journalists and 10% people. It's now rigged as hell. And the fact that Sony keeps winning this shit year after year after year after year, a little bit weird. You know, like The Last of Us, God of War, blah blah blah. It just goes on and on. Every year they win, and it's just a little bit sus.
Well, they didn't win.
Well,
they didn't win because Elden Ring won.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Elden Ring won.
But how come? Okay, you can say every Xbox game is crap, but you can't tell me why the hell didn't a Nintendo game win?
You have a point.
Why didn't a PC game win? You see what I mean? It's just a little weird. Now, yes, Elden Ring did win.
Yeah,
I'll give you Elden Ring. But they're pretty rare. It usually goes to a console game, and that's really strange. Because I think.
But I've been anti the Game Awards since they started, though.
Yeah, I am. Because they never. As well. Do you know
they never started it the right way?
Do you know who's trying to patent the term Game Awards, and they won't go for it because it's two common words: game and awards. They're too common. So he's trying to get it painted because someone else now wants to make an award show called the Real Game Awards, and run it by. I think a lot of content creators need to get together and just make something called the People's Games Awards, and it would take off.
Absolutely,
it would be sponsored, and it would just take off and absolutely explode. And what's to say you can't have, like, just because those are the guys that started it, they don't have to be the main thing. They just get the ball rolling, and year after year, you bring in new content creators. You got those people that came up. Some guy comes in and he's a 20-year-old, and he comes in and you go, yeah, get him to give an award out and stuff like that. And it makes it more about us and less about them. Let's be honest, that's where I think it needs to go. All right. Couple more games. Path of Exile 2. I bet you whoever asked this question is regretting this. Path of Exile 2, free to play. Go try it. It's really, really cool. To get into the early access though, at the moment, it's like 46 Australian dollars. I don't know what that is in freedom units. It's really good, and early access. If you like early access games, you can see it develop. They've only 6 classes at the moment, but they eventually want to have 12, and then each of them have 3 ascendancies. Just like
Path of Exile. I played the first Path of Exile. It was good, so I'm sure the second one is great.
So 12 classes with each having essentially 3 subclasses. Sorry, I need to clarify that. But go ahead and say what we're going to say.
No, that's fine. I was just saying I played the first one, and the first one was really good. So I would assume the second one is
I think this is a lot more accessible, and a lot more. It brings more people in, and it's definitely better than Diablo, the last 2 Diablos. And it's ironic that the latest Diablo expansion has like an Aztec Mayan area. So does this. And they do it better. If Diablo was made for kids, this was made for adults. Like the themes in this are just, put it this way, you pick your character, and then literally all the other characters, you're all standing on gallows, they all get hung and you escape. So you just see this people. You would never see that in a Blizzard game anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And then the last one I've got, won't let me in, is Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 is just ridiculously fun. They've had a real they stuffed it up in a little bit in the middle of the year. I think they've realized a mistake, and it's way better than it was. It's come back to what it was at launch, and I could definitely recommend people get in and play it now. But if we'd be having this discussion 3 months ago, I wouldn't have even recommended it because it went that bad. But they've seen the light, and they've brought it back, and everything's a lot more fun now. And they've just had a new side go in. So now they've got 3 enemy types that you can fight against. One's essentially like zombies at the moment, which is the Illuminate, and then you've got all Way of the Worlds, and then you've got the robots, and then you've got the bugs. So you've got these 3 different types to fight. But yeah, have you played that one, Billy?
No, I watched a lot of people play it. I haven't been able to get into it, but it's on my list. I have too long of a backlog to have played it.
I do have this in my cart, and I've been umming and ahhing about this one, so I will talk about this one. It's called Void Crew.
Void Crew, I haven't heard of that one.
And it's just hit 1.0. It was in early access, and the reason I'm not inclined to buy it is when I looked at the number of people playing or looked at the reviews, there were only 16 reviews. So there's not a lot of people that brought in, but essentially, have you ever heard of the game Pulsar?
Oh no, I haven't heard
I
of
know
that
some
one.
people in chat will have known what that is. So essentially, you are playing on. It's a multiplayer game. You can go enjoy other randoms, or you can play with friends. But you're on a ship controlling it together, and you've got different stations. So essentially, one guy can fly it, one guy can be in engineering and shooting it. So think about Star Citizen. It's got Star Citizen tires, but you can also upgrade those stations. So as you go along, you'll kill things and they'll drop upgrades. So you might want to upgrade your power. So now you can redistribute your power, and that'll allow you to put another turret in or upgrade the turret, or things like that. So yeah, Pulsar Lost Colony. That's exactly right. See, there are some people that know what I'm talking about. So if you like Pulsar, you will like this. The other one that's on the cards that's coming hopefully next year is Jump Ship, and I think Jump Ship, because it had a way better reception, will overshadow this one. But yeah, that's not the actual game. That's the Founders Pack. But yeah, I check it out. Tell me what you think. It's not exactly. Well, you can see it's like I can get it for $36 because I already own Hardship Shipbreaker in that bundle there. But it's normally $38. So what's that in freedom? It's probably 30 American dollars.
Yeah.
But
$29.99.
I even said this on this I can't remember. I think I posted in the Discord. I was saying if there's a couple of Aussies that want to try this out with me, I'll happily buy it and go try it out. But I just don't want to buy it and have no one to play it with, because that's obviously the problem with a game when it's more niche. But it is also by the same publisher as Space Marine 2. So yeah, and I guess Space Marine 2 would be the last one I add on here.
Oh yeah, Warhammer. Yeah,
that was a good one this year. I would put this in the similar league to Dark Tide or Helldivers, but I think they're both more accessible than this. I think this is like the Dark Souls of those. It's a little harder. So if you found those too easy, they might be for you. But I think at a different level, it essentially goes Helldivers, Dark Tide, and then this. Yeah, I like co-op games. If you can't tell, by the way, playing with other people is my thing. So yeah. Anything else you want to add, or any other games you would like me to bring up on your behalf?
Let me see if I have another one. I don't think I have another one that. I think that's good.
Lemming saying Void Crew is great. Yeah. Well, Lemming, if you're playing, then maybe you and I should jump in one time and have a game. Yeah. But you don't see a lot of people streaming on Twitch either. So if I was to bring up Twitch, I've got to mute it because it's going to play this stupid shit. And then was it Void Crew?
I feel like it's so important.
No, I don't feel like it's very important at all. But yeah, look, not many people streaming it, and the top streamer has 17 viewers. And that just made me go, not many people playing this. And so that yeah, just turn me off a little bit. So maybe if we can drum up some interest, then we'll play it privately. Yeah. All right. Enough of that shenanigans. Getting down to the last questions now. So we're up to, who was that by? Okay, so we're up to Chris, who says, what is your opinion on the current quantum fuel tank balancing? Do you think this is where they want it to be, or will they be getting bigger and more systems are added? I think like everything, it's going to be in flux. Billionaire, I think you'd agree with me on that, yeah? Nothing will be final.
Yeah.
Almost ever.
Yeah, I can't ever go with that. I'm done with the meta of the game as far as like, oh, what is the fuel cost now versus what it will be. Until all of the ships are done, or at least the majority of the backlog is done, and they're up to doing ships that were concepted in the last 3 or 4 years, I can't really go with that. We don't even have the Starfarer yet completely where it needs to be, so I really can't. I can't get too into the refueling meta if the ship that's the only ship that's dedicated to the role isn't even done yet. So once they do that ship, I might start leaning more into it. But right now, I'm thinking that this is just make the gameplay fit what people want it to do right now thing.
Absolutely agree with that. It's a cart full of horse problem again. But yeah, I don't think, like, even after the game fully releases, so to speak, like 10 years from now, they will change things as things go along. Even it's just it's like every game, every MMO that you've ever seen. They just change things as they go along.
Yeah, and I've learned my lesson about getting too deep into the meta. in general. Like, because if you start doing that, it becomes a numbers game and you're taking the fun out of it a little bit. I get it that some people like to do that, but at a certain point, like, you just got to have fun, right? Like, do the things you want to do. And I think trying to min-max your fuel and stuff like that, it has its place, but I think also you just got to relax and have some fun.
I think that's the main important thing is to have fun. Right. Phoenix Emerald available every St. Patrick's Day. Yes, this is correct. But it's in limited quantities, so if you miss out, you miss out.
And I think it's only available in a pack now.
I can't remember, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I bought one.
Okay.
I bought one and it was only available in a pack. I couldn't get it by itself.
Unless the individual ones had sold out. I know you used to be able to, but again, maybe it has changed. Again, it's not a ship high on my wish list. And again, St. Patrick's Day has one day and they sell it like hotcakes, so it's really hard to get a hold of them. So yeah. And be honest, it's just a skin. You'll be able to earn that skin in game, like everything else.
Yep.
You've only got to look at the subscriber flares that have made their way into the game. It's going to be exactly the same for them. It's just how far down the rep line that you're going to have to get it. So they'll have on St. Patrick's Day, you have to go to some weird-ass bar at the middle ass end of nowhere and talk to Jackie O, and Jackie O will give you the thing so you can get that rare emerald skin. But you can get it in-game, and it'll be a pain in the ass. It'll probably take you all day to get it, but you can get it.
I wanted a Connie with LTI, and so my whole plan was get this Phoenix, and then like somehow get that Nova, or was it Nomad? The Nomad upgrade that gives the whole pack LTI. And then I couldn't find it for cheap enough, so I was just gonna melt the whole thing, and then somebody gifted it to me. So I was like, now I got my Phoenix with LTI. And that was my biggest thing, is not just a Connie, I wanted a Phoenix with LTI, and that was the best way for me to get it.
You know, I always get jealous that people get sent stuff like that, because I've never been getting anything like that. But I don't think I need anything anymore. But by the same token, I think because people just see I've got so many ships now because I've worked the system and got it out, I've just never needed that. So I think that's it.
But you've also been following the game longer, though. You've got 13 years in. Yeah. I've only barely 8 years. I think it's more like 7 years and some change. So I didn't, like, for instance, I wasn't around when certain ships were even given away and stuff like that. So so you got some rare stuff in there.
I do. But I don't know. I guess I'm a bit jealous that people get given shit for free. That's okay to be jealous every once in a while. Right, so Irish says, why do you melt all your stuff when you only get 2 buyback tokens per cycle? You'll never be able to get all your melted stuff back. What am I missing in this strategy? Well, again, you don't melt, you usually upgrade. But some things you can melt deliberately to get credits. I've seen that, and then buy them back at another time. Sometimes you can also buy them back with cash. So the token just allows you to buy back with credit. For example, say I buy all those skins I was talking about into buyback. Like, I could even just show you my buyback rather. I could actually just show you this rather than explain it. Probably the easier way to do this. So if we go onto the website and I go into my hangar, and then I go into my buyback, so say there's something in here that I wanted. Load something in here. So let's say we wanted this Mole Lovestruck's paint. Now, if I buy it back for cash, it doesn't use a token. And you'll see here it says you have 1 opportunity to use a buyback token. That's only for credit. So if I can either get it back for $7 cash or $7 credit. And the credit is when it uses the token. So I hope that kind of clarifies that. Right.
Yeah, because I have a few ships in my buyback that I'm like, I might have to get that because they're good LTI tokens that I just saved.
Yep. I got many. I remember when the Nox and that were back out, I was just melting, buying every 24 hours. I was just like, buy 5 of them, melt them. Buy 5 of them, melt them. And I've just got heaps of them in there from years and years and years ago. Because back then you could melt and buy with no consequence. So I just was like, well, they're changing the system. I'm going to start exploiting the system. Just melt, buy. And I just got heaps of them there. So if I don't even really need an LTI token, but if I do, I got plenty of them there.
You know something I did that I think a lot more people, I mean, it takes a lot of money to do it, but I actually doing the 24-hour thing. Uh-oh, is my power supply going down?
No power warning.
No, we're good. But every 24 hours for a while, I would
are you going into low power mode? Do you want to recharge yourself real quick? He's really a robot, guys. Didn't you know? Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if you didn't know, I was just the AI behind the screen.
Yeah.
But I bought everything in the subscriber store by every 24 hours, melting a bunch of stuff and then purchasing a bunch of stuff. And I did it when I just had a bunch of credits waiting for my Kraken. So I was just like using that to purchase stuff and put it in Buyback. So now I have the entire subscriber store in my Buyback. And it's like, I don't even really have to subscribe anymore. I could just go in and get whatever I want whenever. So, yeah.
Yep. Makes sense. All right. So Canalist says, Star System on Steam Deck #when. I wouldn't rule that out. You could also just crack your Steam Deck and put normal Windows on it and run it. So yeah, it's possible. But obviously it'll be after 2026 because the game would have to be out. So yeah, possible.
I think with the way DLSS is working, I think it will happen. I think DLSS is what'll make it possible because you'll be able to do so much, so much computing without needing as much hardware. And I think that's what'll make it possible.
You can just say that anywhere on a time. It'll eventually happen. It'll be the Stream Deck 64, but it'll be the But eventually it'll happen. I think it would be possible. Yeah, you got to remember the game's really unoptimized now, and as they optimize it more and more, it'll definitely be playable on more and more things. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think the 5090s are going to come out and they're going to struggle with this game. I think you'll be quite honestly be able to play this game on a 3080 now. I think some other engines are catching up, to be honest with you. Like, I think if you look at the Unreal 5 stuff, I think that is just slightly ahead in some areas. And did you really expect this game to be able to do as much as it does and be the pinnacle of graphics? I think that's a bit unrealistic. I really do.
Right.
I think it's 90% there, but how do you define that in words? I'm trying to, in an engine that's a lot more contained, you would expect to have way better graphics, and I think they're starting to get to that point.
The biggest example of that is when you look at a game like the sports games like FIFA and I guess it's Football Club now, and WWE and those games, because it's all contained in that one arena and things like that, the graphics can be out of this world. But as soon as you start to expand out, you can see the problems with it. So like, for instance, on a game like NBA 2K, for instance, when you're in the game, graphics are incredible, but they have this little mini world that you can walk around in. Graphics are terrible. So it's like,
the way my brain has gone is I just started thinking about the crowd and how the crowd is now 3D. And I just went back, like all the games I played going back and back. And I remember when the crowd was like, it had like everyone doing exactly the same thing as a decal. And then it was like every second person was the same thing. And then it like moved on and on and on and like all the different variations. And I remember when the crowds were flat and I just like, and now they're like, like you said,
real people sitting in the crowd.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Right. We're up to Hudson Hawk says, will it be big trouble to deal with the cargo in the Ironclad Assault that doesn't have tractor beams and still has massive amount of cargo? No, because you've got a bigger door, and I think you can just bring, again, they have mules, don't they? So you just use the mules to load them. Or other vehicles to load them. It's just that it means the main reason the Ironclad has the tractor beam, and if a ship does have a tractor beam, it's usually they're wanting to do features in space. So the Ironclad Assault is really built for the ground, hence that's why it doesn't have the tractor beam.
And I also think I'll keep saying it till the cows come home. The Ironclad Assault is primarily not for cargo. It's for vehicles, and it's for you using that garage on the interior. So if your primary thing you want to do with an ironclad assault is cargo, I think you got the wrong ironclad.
Yeah, I think, yeah. I always preferred the normal ironclad over the assault. And I even asked Paul that because he got a CCU to one. I said, "You sure you don't want the normal one? Like, it seems a lot more built to what you want to do and have told me you want to do in game." He's, "Oh, well, that's the one I got the CC for." And I'm like, "Okay." But, you know, each to their own. You lead
I think
horse to
so.
water.
I bought an assault, and I bought it because it was replacing my Liberator to some degree. So the smaller ships that I would have put on my Liberator, I can now say those are going to go on my ironclad.
I can see that.
The small vehicles and small ships, and now I have a Kraken, so I don't need the Liberator for the larger ships. So that's kind of where I was going with that.
The Ironclad Assault and the Liberator are very similar. One is 2 ships and vehicles. The other one is all vehicles, and then I'm pretty sure at some later date we'll get one that's all ships. And then again, that whole analogy I tell you about, they try to sell them from worst to best. And if you think about it, mix of everything is the worst because you can't choose exactly what you want to do.
Right.
The ones that just does the vehicle, and then the one that just does the ships, because the ships are going to be the biggest draw card.
Right.
So I don't know. It could be a completely new ship manufacturer, or it could be a Liberator variant. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Right. Zenyen Ben, we're down to this is our 4th last question, and we are just we've got half an hour to go. So we'll get 30 minutes off, maybe. Do you think CIG bottled it by not bottled it? Bottled it? I've never heard it called that comment. I don't. By following through with the missile and torps insurance cost changes, and do you think CIG was pressured by Polaris owners crying? I think 500 was a bit steep, but I also do think they need to pay for them. Because by the same token, if they can just sit there and rain hell on you and cause a lot of damage. The other thing is, at the moment, they are dying pretty easily. Like, if you've gone into a Polaris and you try to fire them at the Idris, the PDSs will basically, as soon as it comes out of the tube, and the torpedo will blow up in your face. It does more damage to you than it does to them.
Oh, my goodness.
And the longer you have that thing traveling in space, the more likely it's going to get shot, and they don't move very fast. So again, I think it's a bit of a cart before the horse problem. I think eventually they'll be worth, you know, $500,000 UEC, but I think it needs some other gameplay things in there to make it work properly. Billy?
Yeah, I think it became very clear during like the Save Stanton mission that you weren't going to be able to just refit this Polaris with, you know, and keep shooting these things if they're going to blow up that easy. And I think that's kind of, you have to balance the gameplay with the cost, right? Like, if these things are super effective, make them cost more. If they're not that effective, make them cost less. And it was so obvious to me that I could, without a fighter support, I would fire 4 of these things at the Idris, and it would destroy all 4 of them plus the missiles from the fighter support.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, okay, if they're going to be this useless, I don't want to pay 1.7 million per size 10, right? So if they just had to bring it down to like the utility of the thing.
The cart before the horse problem. Like, we need to understand how they work, but by the same token, you can clearly tell that not everything's in there that needs to be there. Getting the shield down at this point is really hard. You know, distortions are a little bit nerfed as well. So until everything's finessed and the gameplay is working, again, they had a lot of hands all on deck with 4.0, so obviously little things have been missed. Yeah, just give it some time. It'll come around again. I don't think it's because they're crying. I have a Polaris, and I saw it, and I was just like, they'll work it out. I have enough faith, though, to trust them in their system. Seen them fix things in the past. It's just...
I think the entire notion of the crying being effective is it's only when CIG actually makes a mistake. It's not just some gameplay thing that they're gonna fix or some bug.
Yeah.
The crying thing is only effective when they genuinely make a mistake, like the thing that happened with the Galaxy, right? Like, it was a genuine mistake, and then there was a genuine fix for it.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that, you know, CIG is just rolling Reddit and being like, what are they complaining about? Let's change our entire perspective. They got things like this are planned out 12 months in advance. So
yes, sorry, John, if you're watching. Yeah. I feel like I still feel like I caused that shitstorm. I told him it was going to cause shitstorm, but he didn't believe me. Anyway, Hudson Hawk again says, "Do you prefer Arastra or Orion? If to look into the future, I personally prefer the Orion because it's only a $75 price cap. But I understand why a lot of people like the Arastra. But I'm happy to earn down to the Arastra. But everyone will have different take on that."
This is a tough one for me because I didn't know. I guess I didn't pay enough attention when that it couldn't go down the planet, and that's obviously the biggest difference. So now I feel like you have two capitals in one class, right? Like it's the only thing that has that. The Arastra is the ground mining capital. I mean, I don't know if it has capital. It'll end up with capital parts, but I'm just saying like that's the way it feels because the Orion can't go down the ground. So it's weird for me, but I used my Arastra to replace my Galaxy. Right. So it depends on what you need in your fleet. But if I could only pick one, I guarantee you I'm picking the Orion. I'd rather just sit out in space and eat asteroids than do whatever on ground when I could just get a few moles to do that, right?
So
I own both.
This is my response. $75 price difference.
True.
It's 6 times the size of the Arastra. Now, and roughly the same crew count. Right? This is essentially 6 to 8, the Orion, and this is like 4 to 6. Now, yes,
but I think that's going to change, though.
You can only go with what's got now. Right. Hoping and promising and all that is all very different. But yeah, it could very well change. But right now, as it sits, they're the stats. That's the thing. There is no way that this can compete with that Orion. There's just no way. It's 6 times the volume. It's just not possible. And at $75, I think you got rocks in your head not to make the jump.
It's the only thing though is a lot of people don't want to mine in space and they do want to mine down on planet. Yeah.
And you're forgetting though, how quickly can I take the ship above and earn the ship below?
Well, yes, I agree, but also you can CCU your way up to an Arastra and stop before getting to that. If you have no interest in mining in space.
Yeah,
I'm saying specifically for those people.
But at the moment, like right now, there's a $75 price difference between the two of them. Why the hell? And by the way, this is now at the old price that was before this dropped. They pumped that up by $75 to make room for this.
True.
Just so you know, my original Orion was $325. I'm laughing now, man. I'm laughing now.
Same here.
You know, there was an image I used to show off a lot, right? And I don't have it here, but I can recreate it here. We had these people that used to kind of talk about, oh man, I just like my prospector. I don't need anything else, blah blah blah, and they somehow think this thing is going to even compete with the Orion. Right? It's just, and I'll even put the mole in there just to make it like to add it all out. And this is one of the things, because you're looking at the images, right? These little JPEGs that are all the same thumbnail existent size, you very rarely start to look at a ship at their scale. When you sit there and I now talk about an earn down economy, you see that there is the very definition of what I've been trying to talk about.
Yeah.
You can take these 3 at the bottom and they cost more than the one at the top. But do the math. Would you rather have just the one at the top or these 3 at the bottom? As a value proposition, it now makes a lot of sense. And this is the thing that people don't see, because they're just all looking at these pretty images, but they're not looking at them at scale. And this is just on size. Then we start to look at value and other things like that, and it becomes very clear that the earn now economy is the way to go. I think we've been rated by Expat Brad. Oh, sorry, Expat. How you doing? Good to see you there. Hope you had a good stream.
Raid.
Yo-Yo. No, that his name's Billing and my name's Execute, but we can call you Yo-Yo if that's what you want. Yo-Yo. Yeah, she did it again. Cheeky bitch. You're nice to see you. I hope you're doing well since you got back. I miss your face. But yeah, good to see you. Yeah. But yeah, that's what we've always tried to say with the earn down economy.
Yeah.
Sure. So
let me give a quick explanation, right? So like I bought an Arastra not because I needed a an Orion and an Arastra. I bought it because I was trying to fill a refinery void that I had with the Galaxy.
You do know the Orion's got the refinery.
Right, but it can't land on planets, and that's big for what I need my refinery for. So I need my refinery to also be able to land on planets.
So tell me this. So tell me this: how long do you reckon you'd have to go out into the Orion to earn an Arastra?
Probably once, probably once or twice once it's all said and done.
But the point being is, why would I spend X amount of dollars twice or once or whatever? Because I can't really go very quickly from the Arastra up to the Orion, but I can from the Orion down to the Arastra. So it's about spreading the least amount of money as far as possible. And to do that, buy the top one, earn down. Because again, these three here at the bottom are more expensive than the one at the top. You're going to make far more money with the one at the top. If there's any one of these ships, if there's any ship under it, every ship under... what, $650, whatever, like underneath, say I wanted an Apollo, bang, I could just go, I could work from the big ship down and go get an Apollo fairly quickly.
I agree, but we're also talking about people who have fleets too, not just like the one or two ships, right? So like, honestly, you could just buy an Orion and then earn every ship, because I think that's going to be the best money maker in the game.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm shifting more towards talking about why I have it in a fleet, right? And why I would have both. Whereas I get that there's obviously an earn down directly from the Orion. And like I said, if I could only have one, I would choose the Orion. But I think if you're going to have more than one, you need to have a reason. And like for me, the refinery capabilities of it on planet are why I bought it, so it can be my primary refinery ship.
So Expat's got two good questions. Why not a refinery base? Just make a base and take your stuff to the base and get it refined there.
You can't move a base. I need my refinery to be mobile.
You can also refinery at a station. I don't know. I still...
You can't do that in deep space.
I just cannot justify that when I know I can get the Orion and earn down at a value proposition. But again, as we always say, if you want an Arastra, you go get an Arastra. If you're after the gameplay, that definitely offers more... how do I put this? You won't make as much money in the Arastra, but you'll definitely get lots of different gameplay types. You'll be more flexible in the Arastra than you would be in the Orion. But as I said, I'd still buy the Orion because you can very quickly get an Arastra and have best of both worlds. So Expat also said, is base building going to screw with a lot of these big ships' value proposition? No, I don't think it will. I think with things like the Pioneer coming along, how does the Pioneer get all the resources it needs to build these bases?
It has the things now where it can pull up resources from the ground.
Okay, so how does it pull salvage out of the ground?
I don't know if it can do that.
How does
it can't pull salvage out of the ground?
How does it pull the... Well, that's what I'm saying. So you can tell...
Oh, yeah, you're going to need cargo. Yeah, you're going to need cargo.
And that's not going to be in there straight away. But the point I'm trying to get at is now you've got the Reclaimer and you've got like the Mole and you've got the other mining vessels and stuff like that and the Vulture as well. Those ships are going to be feeding stuff into these base builders day one. That's what... It's cool. It's this cool chain now. So it's like, oh, I just don't go out in my Mole and I go sell what I make. No, I go take it and I take it to my org and help build the town or the city that we're trying to build.
But you can build a vulture in your Pioneer, and then have your vulture go out and get the RNC.
You need a mobile. You could have just built an Expanse. You don't need an Arastra anymore. I'm using your own terminology against you.
I could, but then again, it's about it being mobile, right? If you could build an Arastra in it,
you trying to tell me the Expanse is not mobile?
Yeah, the Expanse can only carry like what 40 SCU versus 512.
I'm sorry to shock you, dude, but you can build an Arastra, and not on a.
You can build an Arastra in a Pioneer.
Not on a Pioneer, but you'll be able to build a hangar with a Pioneer that will then build an Arastra.
Yes, you can. You can do that.
It's up to an S5. They literally said that. So that's literally a Polaris could be built on the ground, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So you just can't. You can't build capital.
But they
correct.
also did
Yeah.
confirm that you can build. No, Polaris is capital. It's S5. But that again, well, I'll wait. I'll have to go back and double check it. But it was only the biggest.
Polaris was size 6.
Not Polaris is size 5. It's the Kraken, the Idris, the
mistake.
Orion, the Pioneer, and the all those. It's the biggest of the big RS thingo. But yeah, S5 is But again, because the Pioneer can land.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that can't land is S6. Well, that's not true because some of them can land. But oh god, yeah. Now we're in the
I think you might be wrong on that. I think the Polaris is size 6. But either way, my whole point wasn't that people should go out and buy an Arastra. It was for me, I bought an Arastra because it was filling some other role. So like if you're asking yourself, should I buy an Orion or an Arastra, then I think you should buy the Orion. But if you're asking yourself, is there a reason to have both? I think I found my reason to have both, but it would be up to that person to find their reason to have both. Because like I didn't want a Galaxy in my fleet that wasn't dedicated to its role as well and could fulfill the same things as the Arastra.
I need to bring up my pad size information to answer this question. Hang on. Pad. That's on pads. Hang on. Let's have a look. I can open this in.
Well,
hang on. Just give a second. I got to open on the browser so everyone else. I know you can see, but they can't see, so I'm going to open it. So
okay.
Firefox, and now that should be up on. Oh, I'm going to put it over here. They should be able to see it. But basically, what we're looking at here for pad size, what is the length of the Polaris? Polaris length?
It's like 180 something.
110. Oh no, that's not that.
No, that can't be right.
Wrong. It's the wrong Polaris. It's one of those little.
Okay.
Length is 166.
It is? I thought it was longer than that. Oh.
No, that does actually make it S6 then, if that's technically correct then. That is correct.
Look on the yeah.
I could be. I think I might
go to the specifications.
Oh, here we go. 166. 166. And this is their pad sizes, so that would make it a capital extra large or S6, and so it's 272. So yeah, that would be it. So it is an S6.
Because it's longer than the Reclaimer, right?
Yeah, it's an S6, not an S5.
Yeah.
The Reclaimer would fall into that as well, I think, though. As well.
Yeah, Reclaimer. I think that's the Reclaimer is going to end up being like the shortest, like the shortest capital. Like.
Reclaimer's also taller though as well. So it's not.
Is true.
It's not just a length dimension; it's a width and height.
It's
so as soon as
height,
as soon as one of those three are succeeded, it pops up to the next one. Yeah, essentially.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Just because
we did go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, it happens. No, but expat's asking 890 jump. It's 890 jump, Polaris.
890 jump is size 6 too, yeah.
Yep. And where'd the Polaris go? It didn't go.
890 jump's got to be bigger though.
Hang on. And well, the Banner Merchantman's the same, pretty much on point with the 890 jump, but it's not in game yet. So Reclaim.
Yeah.
Because again, if you look at our theory, they originally had all the shops and that on the 890 jump, and then they got put into the Banner Merchantman. But yeah, it'd have to be because of the nose on. Yeah, look, the 890 jump easily.
Yeah.
Easily. Whoa, man, there's not a lot of. It's just the cockpit, literally the cockpit. But if I take it from,
they must have shrunk it because I thought it was 180 or something.
See, but that changes everything.
Yeah.
Look, it's actually the shortest in height, and you can even see the bounding boxes. Look, shortest. Well, they're close. Oh, they're incredibly close. It is just slightly taller. But yeah. Yeah, Polaris.
That makes sense, though.
I'd probably argue
that makes sense.
The Polaris is probably the biggest ship in the game at the moment because there is a lot of empty space in this.
True.
Interesting. Okay, I hope that answered your question, Expert. We're down to a last couple of questions now. Bottle. Do you prefer Astra? Do you think that Squadron 42 will be put on Steam?
On Steam.
I'll let you answer that one.
Ooh, that's interesting. Yes. I don't think it will initially be available on Steam, but I do think it will end up on Steam. So like I would say probably the first 4 to 6 months it'll be come to Star Citizen because you need to know what our website looks like. We need that traffic and things like that. But Steam is too big of a platform to not have it available on Steam at some point.
So I can't break a promise. So I know. So my response is no comment. Because I said I would not say. That is my answer.
Okay.
I wish. Last question of the day says, how do you use the Nomad LTI CCU to upgrade to a package? So essentially, when the Nomad came out, they offered a Warbond CCU that actually, like, because that's how bad the Nomad, they knew the Nomad was not going to be well received. So it also has one of the best packages you could ever buy when it first came out. Cheapest, came with a whole bunch of was it 20,000 UEC, much like the Intrepid did. Anything that isn't received very well, they try to throw little extras at you and stuff. And it was the first ever CCU or upgrade you could ever buy that gave LTI to other stuff. So people scrambled to buy it because you could, if you already had a CCU chain and it wasn't applied, you could just slip that in, and all of a sudden, something that would have had 6 months insurance, LTI.
That's how my Connie Phoenix got LTI.
It might have been also a little bit of the thing that they tested the water on, whether it was worth them just turning LTI on for everything. I just think they should sell LTI as a $15 upgrade that you buy, and all it does is just chuck any ship you own, bang, it just chucks LTI straight on it. That would make,
I agree,
make
but it would never be $15.
Well, that's what it's worth. If you actually look back at the old packages, you could get it with LTI or without. It was about $15.
What I think it would be is percentage based. 10% of the price of your ship.
Each to his own. You know, I guess you could do it that way. But either way, no matter how it's priced, I think we'd both agree CIG would make a lot of money very quickly if that happened.
I think that's one of the ones that they have tucked in the side here. Like, if we really get into money trouble, we could just pull this card out.
Maybe. Sorry, I'm just reading what someone was saying. It's useful to. I can't pronounce your name because it starts with an X. It's like it's like Aztecian or something. It's useful to keep upgrades to Endeavor without applying it. If it will be expensive, you won't feel torturing ourselves because you didn't do it. Yeah, exactly. You just get a Gemini to an Endeavor one and just sit on it and wait. That's all you ever have to do.
Yep. Right. It happened with the BMM. It happened with Orion. So many chips.
All right. Do you want to tell people where they can find you on the interweb? While I quickly find someone to raid on Twitch. You'd be so kind.
Absolutely. Billionaire Ninjas on YouTube and Twitch, and if any other platform, if you can't find Billionaire Ninjas, it'll be Ninjas Leap. That's my little tagline. Talk is cheap, Ninjas Leap.
And what type of things do you do on there?
So on Twitch, when I'm streaming, mostly just talking, just like we're doing here on the Inforunners. And when I'm doing my YouTube stuff, I'm normally reviewing ships, doing buyer's guides, and talking about the game in a more useful way for players, people who play the game, and trying to bring some more information in the new year. I'll be expanding. I'll be doing a new player guide and stuff like that. Yeah.
I think we might take you up on the review challenge though, and review some ships. I don't know if we want to beat you and do 300 in 1 year, but I think we'll definitely start going back and reviewing some of the older ships and stuff like that. Yeah. Trying to find someone we haven't rated in a while.
Yeah, I think the ship.
Go ahead.
The ship review thing is so interesting because I learned so much about the ships that I thought I knew about. And when I went to review them, I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I didn't even know the 85X had 2 seats in it. Like, there were so many things that I learned by doing these reviews that I was like, man, if I just looked at that ship a little closer, like I would have made a completely different decision back then. So yeah, part of the reason I do a lot of the content I do is because I'm trying to learn about it, and I just share that with other people. Like, if I'm going to learn, why not share this while I learn with other people who need to learn?
All right, so I think we're going to raid Zero State. He's
okay.
One of the I think he's just started. I had to type Twitch instead of raid. So Zero State. I'll mute him when we come up, but yeah, he's currently mute him. Oh no, he's already muted. Cool. So he's in 4.0. What he's doing. So Twitch, say goodbye to YouTube. YouTube's say goodbye to Twitch. Thank you for joining us. Have a good time. Zero, how he's doing. I did run into him at a couple of the bar citizens. He was a great guy, as was everyone that I ran into, actually, to be honest with you. All very polite. Except this guy, he was a rude asshole. I'm just kidding. He was
absolutely,
great.
100%.
It looked like he was running around with a hockey bag the whole time because he was carrying all this camera equipment everywhere he went. He just like he had to go to a sports match everywhere he went. But yeah. Yeah, so
to be fair though, I was the first person allowed into Citizen Con because I was carrying that bag. So I get to say that.
Yep. All right. With that then, say goodbye to Twitch. And they're gone. All right, we'll turn it on and see if he says anything. All right, let's have a quick listen.
We got to try a bunker mission. We're going to see if we can find a tractor beam. Let's go that direction. Hey, thank you very much, Inforunners.
Oh, I can't hear him.
Yeah, Finographics. I'm just trying not to do it that route. I want to do stuff where...
That's okay. I could find him on that thing.
That's all right. We're going to move on anyway. Call it for the day. Yeah. My cough is getting shocking, so I need to take a break anyway. All right, thank you for joining us. We'll try and get a video done on the weekend. Again, Alfred's got family stuff on, but I'll try and see if I can pull in one of the other boys to help me out. Probably going to do something on the Guardians. So look forward to that. We still need to get back and do the Star Lancer and the Polaris, but we'll do that as well over the Australian summer. Get that sorted. Thank you for joining me today, Billing. I really appreciate it. Hope you had a good time.
Of course.
And I wasn't too rude and insulted the crap out of you too much.
No. I've been watching you for too many years to be offended by any of that.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you again. All right, with that then, he's been Billing. I've been Execute. See you next time, citizens. Bye. Say goodbye, Bill.